Well, hey there, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, and welcome to the SMITE Summer Solstice Week 2. The NA Gauntlet is where we're going to be jumping into. So if you watched last week, you probably know a little bit about what's going to be going on. First and foremost is going to be that we have 6 teams, and by the end of it, we're going to have 1 team. It's Gorett's Trelly, and of course, like I said, last week it was Europe. This week is going to be North America. And it's honestly shaping up to look, I mean, already, I just have the rosters right here. Looks amazing for what I'm expecting to see Trelly. But again, you get 5 and 6 play each other. Winner plays 4. Winner plays 3. Winner plays 2. Winner plays 1. And ideally, by the end of it, somebody does actually win. They move on to All Stars. Yeah, no, as it happens, they aren't locked in eternal combat. And so it's this long, kind of grueling affair. Last week we saw the Tanuki, right? Just climb. Unfortunately falling to, I believe, the Wargs, who then, I believe, fell to Mambo. And so things like that, like once you get towards the end, things get harder, man.
Oh, yeah. For sure, and I think that's the strength of this tournament, though, right? You get to see some bottom seed teams. Maybe they're able to climb their way up the gauntlet, maybe not, but at the very least, you get to see some exciting SMITE, and I'm pretty sure that's why you're all here, so good stuff.
You get to see familiar players, especially if you've been watching the SCC, if you're wondering what kind of teams, who's playing, and who's on what, because I know last week we had a lot of familiar names, but on unfamiliar team brands, I guess. They had swapped around. And so, of course, here you can see the Storm, who are, I believe, taking on the Wardens first. Winner of that will then take on the Scorpions over on the right. And then, of course, winner of that would then go against, let's say, like the Valkyries, the Weavers, the Sages, the top 3 that are going to come through. And, Trelly, I'm going to tell you, the bottom 3 has a lot of names that we've seen in the SEC for a while that have been very, very impressive. The top 3 have a lot of names that I would be scared to go up against, period. I think, and it is one of those things that as the gauntlet goes on, right, Storm to Wardens to Scorpions, then suddenly when you hit Valkyries, Weavers, and Sages, that feels like an entirely different game.
It does feel like that, right? It seems like the top 3 are separated just by way of how we've seen some of these players react, somehow we've seen them play, but I think the gauntlet does mysterious things, and the main thing is I think momentum starts to form, right? Once you see a bottom-seeded team start getting some wins under their belt, if they're able to, of course, it's a little bit intimidating, right? You get to say, hey, you've got some of this tournament experience. We've been sitting here waiting for our chance to fight. So, I don't know. It should be some exciting stuff, I think. That's exactly why this format is so exciting, because you get to see that sort of momentum build up.
And that's the fun part. Actually, this is a really weird thing to be a fan of, but I'm a fan of the graphic that has the bracket on it, because it explains it just better. There's so many ways you could put into words how this works. And I don't think a single one of them beats just that visual representation. It's a climb. You're climbing up the ladder. You're doing your best. And, of course, for the Storm and the Wardens, it all starts here. For the Sages, you don't even got to play till tomorrow, man. you're coasting for a little bit. I believe the Weavers as well. So today we'll see the Storm versus the Wardens, winner versus the Scorpions, then winner of that versus the Valkyries to close out the day. Tomorrow, Weavers and Sages will take on whoever is up there from the gauntlet. Again, last week in Europe, we saw a team from the bottom climb up towards the very top, and we'll see where they end up going. Of course, all of them are best of 3s, so that creates, I think, a very interesting dynamic for a lot of them in general. And again, a lot of them have some interesting names that have been attached and been in the SCC, and very specifically and very conveniently jumping into the Storm, a couple of players that we have seen who have been playing more competitively more recently, right? Tegveer, Ratmilk Globe happened, Shippigami, quite a few names that we would recognize because they have come in and competed against some of these teams. They fought to qualify into the SCC to get this spot in general, and now Trelly, they get to try their hand at the gauntlet.
They certainly do, and I think that's the big difference maker. Just because they're towards the bottom of the seeding chart does not mean that they didn't fight their way to be here, and because of that, I think it should make for some exciting stuff. A lot of these players in particular have that potential to just hard carry a game. I've seen Shippigami just absolutely run away with the game if he's able to get a small lead over in that duo lane. Same with Globe. He's been a pleasure to watch over in mid. Has I'm not going to say eclectic god pool. There's definitely some hard carries that he likes to go towards, but I'm not I'm not seeing him just pick from the top of the tier list every single time, if that's going to be the case. So a squad that certainly can work well together if given the right opportunity. And I think in a situation like this where you want to try and swing some wins together early on, play for some pressure, that sort of thing, I think this meta also suits their play styles.
I never thought about it, and I do think I'm going to touch on what you had said, which is if I ever see a highlight of a guy and he's playing Janus, I know he's not picking from the top of the tier list every single time. He's gone a little deeper in the pockets. I don't know if there's anything more awkward in Smite, though, than that third shot on a Rom ult when you already killed the guy you meant to kill. Like, you hit one, you hit two, he's dead, and now you're like, oh, I guess I'll just throw this one out. And that's kind of what that last highlight was. You already got the kill, though, and that's all that matters. Speaking of all that matters, is the first matchup, right? And the only thing that matters to you right now, I think, if you're the Storm, is who you're going up against. And that, of course, is the team right behind me, the Kaolin Wardens, that they're going to be taking on. And, Shelly, this is when I was actually talking to you beforehand. If you were watching and, if you were caught up, I guess, on the relegations, right, coming into the SCC, you recognize a few of these names. If you weren't, you recognize at least Tubahh. But this one definitely has some more question marks around the roster and brings maybe a different weight to it than what the Storm is.
Yeah, I remember in particular, I was casting some of the Wardens games when they were trying to relegate into the SCC, and it was just by fate that I had got into like a deadlock of queues with Picoways as my jungler, and I want to say he dropped 10, 20 kills every single game and hard carried every single time. He got me so much MMR, and I was like, listen, Gore, I don't care who this team is going up against. I've got faith in, again, now the Wardens, because Picoways is just playing unstoppable, and I think that's sort of been the play style the Wardens have gone for. Just a great group of gamers that are able to not only play early pressure, which I think is so impactful in a tournament like this, just making sure, hey, from the get-go, right, from spawn, you are going to be just a little bit behind if we can play the map the way we want to. And because of that, I think most players can lane from ahead. That's relatively easy. But laning from behind, it messes up your farm, it messes up your buff spawns, and that really can start to string together. So I think that's the playstyle the Wardens might go for here, just trying to come out the gate swinging. Whether that plays into the Storm's favor is up to them. Can you match that sort of early pressure? Can you deal with Picoways in the jungle? These are questions only time will tell.
Well, going up against Ratmilk, definitely going to be one that I think is very interesting from what we've seen out of both of these players, whether it's in ranked or not.
Yep. And
like you said, only time will tell, and time starts now. Game 1 between the Wardens and the Storm. Wardens will be first pick. Now, it's been a weird, I don't want to call it stalemate. We've been in an interesting spot for the meta.
Right.
Where a lot of the things that we saw towards the tail end of Masters still pretty much the prevalent picks and bans that we can expect. But, and there's an asterisk on it, which is just immediately, there's also that caveat of sometimes this dude's just real good at that god and suddenly everything falls apart if you don't ban that or control that. Game 1 of the whole gauntlet, though, feels like you're going to stick to maybe some more normalcy. We've got Jormungandr, Marty so far from the Storm, Achilles, Baba Yaga, and now a Hunbatz from the other side. So a couple of shots towards the jungle, a little bit in mid. It just feels like it's a little more, I'm going to call it catch-all. And the Hachiman, which he's been on the, Charlie, I'm going to be real with you.
Please do.
He's been on the fence, right? He has been the uncontested top carry, but I haven't seen him as a first pick be like the guy who wins the game.
Well, it's interesting because we haven't had SPL in a while, and that usually dictates a little bit of what we see in the top picks and top bans in some of these, minor the SEC matchups. With that being said, we do have the EU Gauntlet under our belt to go off of, and Freya was a very highly contested pick, something that was like end-all, be-all. We do not want to give that up, and we want to try and grab it. Goes relatively overlooked here. The Sun Wukong, which was still a pretty top solo pick in that tournament, not really for hard carry potential, but for safety in solo lane. And Thor was another one. It looks like the Storm are going to pick that up pretty much immediately as well as the Terra. So wanting to get some of that sustain online, wanting some extra healing just to make sure that these prolonged fights can go in their favor. I do like the top two there from the Storm.
Thor, Terra, both not only highly contested, but really good at team fights, as it turns out, right? Ultimates, I think that can change things, so maybe level the playing field for the Storm. The Sun Wukong definitely threw up question marks. Like,
you threw up?
No. But Ganesh, suddenly we're back in the territory of like, hey, this has been massively successful. Ram as like an individual pick, I feel like has been, he's on that cusp. Like if you ask people what are the top carries, I feel like he's not going to get mentioned, but he is always going to get locked in like the top 3, top 5. And so it's nice to see him get in here. But Ganesh, something that rose up. If you got a good Ganesh player, then it can be some of the most annoying in the world. The Ohm that stops you. Dharmic Pillars is still, in my eyes, just one of my favorite abilities in the game. So even though the Wukong threw me off maybe the scent, the next 2 for the Wardens has me locked in.
Yep, you got that front line already, which is a smart look. I'm curious to see where this set goes in particular. I think the set is a dynamic pick that has been played in ADC, it's been played in mid, and it's been played in solo. Of course, the Thor, same sort of way. Not really ADC, but definitely in that solo/jungle role. So those picks interchangeable in my mind, but the Ishtar, a pick that was dominating the meta. Top pick, top ban for quite some time, then sort of fell back, and I think making her way back in. You can still certainly pick Ishtar if you want some lane pressure, if you want some good team fight presence. It's not going to be top of the tier list, but it'll get the job done.
It's those ults, man. Every time I see an Ishtar ult, it like clicks in my brain where I'm like, oh yeah, that's why she's really good. Why have we not seen her again lately? Locked in there. And I feel like maybe solidifying a little more of where Set and Thor might be going. But the bans that came through before that Ishtar, you got the Serket, you got a Bakasura, some jungle targets that force the Wardens over towards a Ratatoskr and a Tiamat for their bottom 2. Other side, it was the Oleron, the Izanami, which maybe is what opens up. That Izanami has been like the pressure pick as of late, and so Ishtar kind of filling in that role. And so you get a couple of, let's call them hard carries if you're looking at the Wardens. I see at least 1 late game hyper carry, if not 2, on the side of the Storm though, Trelly, and that can get to be quite a handful dealing with a Set and an Kuang.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the double assassin mid if possible, right? Because you've got the Set that's going to be really annoying to deal with, and I attribute Kuang to being an assassin, right? He's a mage, but he likes to get up close and personal and do that big burst damage like assassins do. Don't have the greatest clear, but their 1v1 potential or 2v2 could be nasty. Expect some sparks to fly early on in that mid lane.
Yeah, I mean, there's 3 assassins on the Storm. I want to see what's going to happen. I'm sure you do too. And that's why we're going to go ahead and jump into game number 1, Wardens and Storm. Again, best of 3, Gauntlet style. Winner of this will go up against the Scorpions, but they got a long while to go to make it there. And you're going to stick with myself, Trelly, and of course, joining us for the game will be Doug. So far, nothing's going to stand out. I was wondering if maybe, I mean, you got 3 assassins. Do you risk an invade? I guess the answer is just straight up no. Nobody's really risking invades as of late because of the debuffs. And Trelly, I've got to ask, I'm trying to figure out which lane is going to confuse me the most, and I think it's going to be the fact that we've seen, and what I assumed was going to be a Thor solo, is a now Kuang solo for Tegveer up against a Wukong, which I don't think I've ever seen this lane matchup.
Well, Gore, you'll see that I covered my bases, right? Yeah. I said the double assassin in mid, and then I alluded to Kuang being one of those assassins. There's still double assassin in mid. I made sure that I covered that base just in case, and it ended up paying off, because we do see that it's going to be Ratmilk on the Thor, which I should have known. This is a pick that he likes to go to a fair bit. Hámmy takes a lot of damage over in the duo lane, though. A couple more autos would have done it, but Shippigami just does not have the range to confirm that kill. So probably staying pretty far back over on that left side of the map. I was wondering if a shell was going to be popped, something like that. No, Hámmy opts to pick up the Cursed Ankh, which is not going to help you survive in lane, right? It's going to help you engage if you want to deal with some of that healing, but it doesn't give you that extra health bar or anything like that. So pretty smart for Hámmy and Tubahh to stay underneath that tower for the foreseeable future.
Man, I cannot imagine laning up against 2 assassins. We're just laning over here. I mean, the Terra stun's on point. And you had mentioned lane pressure earlier during picks and bans. We're seeing that for sure over in left. Picoways bullied slightly around left mid camps, but not going to be enough to find a kill for the Xibalba Storm. Thor making his way towards left. Ratmilk instead opting for the shield buff. Charlie, man, I'm going to be real with you. This is one of those games that it can be frightening if you are on, I'm going to say the Wardens. Probably very entertaining if you're watching. And that's just because a fight with 3 assassins in my mind, can break out quite literally any time they just decide to go in. And I think that's a small example of it around the left mid camps. Is just like, I can just teleport at you. I can just be there. Tegveer might be feeling the brunt of the other side. Ratatoskr goes for the gank. Stun was good, but discipline allows Tegveer to get on out of there. A little bit of a flourish, right? A blink forward with an ability. Creates some disengage. And it's going to be small things like that. First kill. Be a huge difference. Level 5 over there for the solo laner. And now, with an execute online, maybe some danger for the Wukong in the future.
Certainly could be. I was paying attention towards those solo lane relics as we see an attempted invade, but a good Ohm should be able to confirm it, you would think. But
should
is always going to be able to find a little bit of extra damage. Cannot believe that buff was going down towards the side of the Storm. Good play from the Terra. Anxoush gets some damage off and is able to steal it away. But as we were talking about beforehand, a gank over towards solo lane. Tegveer, I looked at the relics, has teleport, no beads available, which means we might see another gank towards the Kuang. Gotta find the stealth, and they do. That's gonna be first blood.
I mean, that's as easy as it could be, right? Especially, and it's that one downside, right? You said not only just the beads, the minute he turned and went towards the wall.
Yep.
That is, okay, you know what? There's only 2 ways he can go. It's left or right. Unfortunately, if you're Tegveer, they found you this time around. And so I'm going to ask, especially because Kuang is so unconventional for a solo laner, how much does that set you behind, just losing first blood? You were relatively ahead in terms of experience prior to that, but now falling behind at least a level to Bruno. Is that like you're not fighting anymore, you're devastated?
It's not easy as an Kuang to clear up against these traditional Bluestone warriors early on. There does become a power spike where you're just online for good if you get 1 to 2 items, especially if a little bit of auto attack damage in your build. So I'll have to see what Tegveer decides to build here. If it's me, I'm going Breastplate of Regrowth every time into a possible damage item, right? I want like Telekines or maybe even a Bancroft's Talon just so I can try and trade. It really does depend on when you get that build, because you see where Picoways wants to hang out, right? It has been the right side of the map. It has been over near this Kuang. This is the 3rd gank in 2 minutes, and once again, Tegveer's getting chain stunned.
And look, can you get out of here with a little help from Thor? Maybe. Might be able to turn it around as well. Execute is good for Tegveer. Picoways made it back under the tower, so saves their own life here, but loses the solo laner. And Ratmilk making sure that the 3rd time isn't the charm for the Kaolin Wardens. Ties things up 1-1. Keeps things equal in the solo lane. Then they even get a little aggressive into the jungle trelly. Looking for some small invades. Picoways, if not careful, might walk into a double assassin ambush around the blue. Stun is good. Double tap's good. They need a little more damage, but they just aren't able to find it. The dash from the Ratatoskr gets him out of there alive, but they still lose the blue buff, and he gets sent back to base.
This is the kind of pace I was expecting, though, Gore. I mean, especially when you see a Rat and a Thor. These are 2 junglers that have the ability right at level 5 to get as active as possible, and that has been the case. Sparks flying, especially over towards that solo, and this is why picks like Wukong are valued so much in this meta, because they're very safe. However, if you use that Somersault Cloud offensively, or if it's down, you can get chain stunned and, of course, executed by the Kuang relatively easily. So Tegveer is able to make, I'm not going to say a comeback kill. It was only first blood. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but at the very least, get online over in that solo lane. And I'm thinking ward coverage and holding on to your escapes and your CC immunity is going to be the topic of conversation over on that side of the map because of how much action Picoways and Ratmilk have put to that side of the map.
No, Picoways putting some effort in on left. And unlike you, I will say it for the clickbait title. Comeback kill from Tegveer.
Oh,
wow!
Yeah. Big time.
Click here to see what this wild Kuang does to turn things around. It's, I mean, so far, just a small little play, but the difference I feel like it would make in your laning, at least for Tegveer so far, seems pretty palpable is the word that came to my mind. It's noticeable. We have seen, I think quite a few times now, though, Picoways getting kind of knocked back to base, taking a lot of poke, trying to be aggressive, trying to get something done. That's something we talk about Ratatoskr a lot. Similar to a Thor dunk, at least in terms of ultimate, likes to play aggressive early on. And we saw that in Ganks on Solo. No attention to dual lane, no attention really in a lot of mid lane. It has been trying to bully Tegveer for the Wardens. And the same really goes for everybody else. I mean, you've seen a little bit of poke in mid from the double assassins, and definitely Anxoush and Hámmy just doing their best to be obnoxious support players. But otherwise, nothing too crazy that has gone on. Picoways finally showing some attention over here, and hasn't really amounted to too much. Shield buff goes the way of the Wardens. Gold, at this point, 500 separating the two. Storm slightly ahead. Experience, about the same, but in favor of the Wardens, 500 over towards them. And that's going to mainly be sitting in mid right now. Blue buff invade from Xibalba Storm around Bruno. Gets them the second in a row, which is going to start causing a lot of trouble for Bruno. Up into the sky goes Picoways. Comes crashing down. And a safe territory. Green buff invade unsuccessful from the Wardens. And Trelly, the attempts were all there, just not finding anything.
I do like that call from Picoways, though. You can see the immediate switch up in aggression, saying, hey, I've been sitting over in Soul Lane for quite some time. Unfortunately, they're getting the better end of those trades. I'm heading over to left, but Ratmilk, he can go over to the left side of the map as well, and Pico's in trouble.
Yeah, gonna have to dash away for this one. The stun is good, the double tap. Not enough damage, though. Picoways gets to walk out of there. Globe in trouble now, needs some help for a disengage. Luckily, Set has some decent movement between that and Ratmilk's damage. It's gonna be enough to get away. Anxoush, of course, playing deterrent. Trelly, there's probably 2 deaths that should have happened there, and I'm impressed neither did.
They certainly didn't. The healing, I think, from Anxoush's ultimate definitely helping out, as well as good beads, good relics from both of these squads. Picoways loses that relic, and of course, on the other side, Ratmilk and Globe had to use those beads just to try and confirm their own lives getting out of that situation. The Kingslayer also comes in, collects there for Globe just for some extra movement speed and be able to close that gap. As you said, Set does have incredible range when trying to just dash out of trouble. But the switch up is there, right? Remember, so much fighting on the right side of the map, but now duo lane has been getting really active. Shiπigami certainly not has been sitting underneath that tower, has been pushing up, trying to force Tubahh into a unfavorable situation. But Tubahh hasn't been taking too many of those fights. He'll get poked out, he'll back up, just try and sustain with the Dev Gauntlets, whereas, my goodness, Shiπigami finishes the Dev Gauntlets so quickly and then goes in for a full Executioner. You know Tubah's going to head right back to base to try and match that upgrade, because you're not boxing a whole Executioner down. That just does not bode well for your laning phase.
Yeah, unfortunately, only enough for the Balance Blade right now. So that doesn't necessarily help too much. Tier 2's nice, but the stat difference, and specifically passive difference between an Executioner and just the Tier 2, make a huge, huge change-up in favor of Shiπigami. And I like seeing the supports because they're getting active right now. In fact, I can't think of anything more so than Hámmy, who's deep near the XP buff of the Xibalba Storm. But there hasn't been as heavy, I think, an investment from them so far. Meanwhile, the Storm, right side, 3rd blue buff invade successful in a row. And just as I was talking about the dual lanes not doing too much, Armored Pillars get dropped and the chase is on Hámmy. Stunned out, but Shiπigami just can't get there without eating the full Dharmic Pillars. They're going to need a little bit of help, and Globe rotates in to find it. Gets the kill for the team. Now they can back off happy. Couple of ults dropped, but a kill found nonetheless.
Yep, Hámmy just goes a little bit too aggressive there, uses that dash to try and confirm a kill, or at the very least pull some beads. And now Ratmilk might be in the wrong part of town. Has to hammer away, but Picoways doesn't have the slow and will be just fine. Goes up into the air, and Ratmilk has to mirror it just to make sure they're both able to get out of trouble. Ratmilk was thinking about going back in, decided against it. Probably the smart call, considering how much action was on that side of the map. But I love it. I mean, the fighting has not stopped. There's only been 3 kills total, 2 for the Storm and 1 for the Wardens, but not for a lack of trying. There has been a lot of scrapping so far. And since we have the conversation, this does actually benefit the way that nnog has decided to build. This Tiamat has the Tablet of Destinies, a build that fell out of favor for a while, but I've been seeing it sort of squeak its way back through. There was a few Discordias, for example, in the EU Gauntlet that were going towards this build. Doesn't do as much damage right now. But if you're able to get it stacked up and sit until a full build and you're actually getting all these procs online, this Tiamat build will be disgusting to some of these tankier targets.
Something that late game, I mean, It's so awkward because you say tankier targets, and I remember what the lineup that they're going up against is. There's 3 assassins, a hunter, and then the guardian. So Anxoush gonna have to worry about it a little bit, and you're gonna have some tank items spattered here and out. So it's not gonna necessarily be just one character, but definitely maybe a little more limiting. I'm also keeping my eyes on Tegveer just in general, like build-wise and experience and gold-wise. And it's just because I'm wondering, what does a late-game solo Kuang look like? And does it look very similar to a late-game jungle Kuang? Breastplate maybe changes a little bit, but get some cooldowns in there. The execute's still going to be there. Charlie, it's all about, I guess more so, just when they will rotate in and when that will make a big difference. Unfortunately for Bruno, a lot of this lane has been this exact kind of thing, losing the blue buff. Now, finally, is able to step up. For the first time, I think, in 4, Bruno finally gets his own blue buff. And a little bit of experience and some gold back in the pockets of the Wardens. Uh-oh. Never mind. Anxoush is fine.
Could have been scary. We decided against it. No action over on that side of the map. Remember, the Gold Fury is up and available, has been for a while. Because of that beacon fight, there was a bit of a grouping on the left side of the map, but does not translate into anything just yet. As far as ADCs go, both squads have the DPS to try and burn through a Gold Fury, but Confirm comes into consideration here. I don't think that Tiamat's got the easiest time bursting it down, and of course Globe, if he's got a lot of set clones, will be able to find a decent bit of confirmation towards that objective. It's not guaranteed, and because of that, we see some grouping, we see some fighting towards the Fury, but not actually a pull just yet. No team is feeling that confident to go for a 50-50. But I like to look towards where these junglers are positioning, where they're hanging out at, and it's a lot of around this green buff area. Of course, that's because that's where the farm's at, right? That green buff, the chest camp, there's a lot to do on this side of the map, but also I think they recognize DPS towards this objective is going to be a big deal. You lose sight of it for a solid 6 seconds or so, and you may have missed your opportunity to try and defend the first Gold Fury of the game. Now that Pyromancer's available, maybe you've got that decent trade of, oh, they're going for gold, we'll go for Pyro. But it's not something you want to give up, especially when the gold and the kills are this tightly knit.
And we've seen, especially, it's such an awkward thing. An early Pyromancer can be so great in that later on it could give you 2-3 bombs to stack up and deal with a tier 2, deal with a Phoenix. We've also seen early Pyromancers where the bomb gets used on what feels like sometimes nothing, and suddenly doesn't mean as much. Grouping, speaking of which, around the Pyromancer right now, 15 minutes in, and it's the Storm in control of it. Bruno steps up. There's the Dharmic Pillars, but the Storm able to secure that one. Have not picked up the bomb just yet. Tegveer in a little bit of trouble up into the sky. Goes Ratmilk crashing down, kill onto Hámmy, and now the chase is on. Picoways double tap, double kill for Ratmilk, and they're going to continue this lockdown. Wall a little wide. Nog's going to be able to walk under the tier 1 alongside Bruno. Finds a safe haven. But that is a huge swing. Double kill for the jungler, Pyromancer, plus the Runic Bomb. All in favor of the Storm.
Now, this is sort of the issue when you're letting something like the tanky Kuang through. I mean, Tegveer is able to free farm, gets the breastplate, gets the Shoguns online, so he's got protections to both sides. As Shippigami just whiffs the ultimate there up against Tubahh. Unfortunate we caught that one, but yep, we watched it. You need beats, right? Hámmy does not have them. Of course, this time around, the execute didn't actually go through. He was able to turn into dragon form and go up to the sky, but Ratmilk, he essentially stole the kill before it happens, but it doesn't really matter. At this point, it's all about, can Hámmy be a frontliner, right? Can Ganesha sit at the forefront of the fight? With an Kuang around, with no beads, it's not going to work. Hammy's beads are getting pulled, or not the beads, the Magi's bubble, rather, is getting pulled right away from Anxoush. And because of that, this Ganesha can't stay in the fight very long.
It's an unfortunate scenario. Equally as unfortunate for the Wardens. The Storm starting up and burning the Gold Fury like it's nothing, almost in time with the Dharmic Pillars. But Hámmy, a little bit too late in the Storm, get to walk away. Charlie, now we're talking 4,000 gold, 4-1 for the kills. And a team that is on fire. Wall just a little short there from Ratmilk. Otherwise, we're maybe talking about a different kill and another one in mid. But the pressure has been applied. You had said maybe you go for one objective, and as a consolation prize, the other team can try to sneak whichever one you're not on, but instead both go the way of the Storm. No tier 1s have fallen just yet, but you have to imagine with that amount of pressure, and specifically now with the beacon going to be spawning relatively soon, the Storm have a little bit more maybe going on for him. Shiπigami, we caught you whiffing the last ult. This time around, we catch you almost soloing out Tubahh, forcing the Rom to fall back. I would imagine everyone's going to group up maybe for the beacon, but up into this sky goes Ratmilk. And you got to be careful there. You can't be caught back in under the tier 1. An easy dunk, easy mez combo, and Ratmilk is now 3-0.
I understand the call from Tubahh. He had to know there is no way that I'm not getting ulted here, and I've got one out. It's to retreat. If I go up into the sky, they'll wait for me. If I use relics, I'm 1 HP. If I get back to base, that's the only way this Thor doesn't kill me. And Shiπigami says, Rolling Thunder. Nope. Picoways, though, goes for the dive. I don't think you have the damage for this one, actually. Might be in some trouble with the teleport in from Tegveer. Ratatoskr is going to have to get out of there. Uses the blink. At the very least, pulls both relics off of Shiπigami. But with no Fury available, looks like the beacon is going to start up here. Storm, they've got all sort of pressure. They've got all sort of buffs. They're able to grab that beacon for relative free. There was no good way for me to say that once I was decided on relatively.
Yeah, well, relatively. It is. I mean, it was relatively free.
Yep.
Like, they took a little bit of poke.
They didn't step up for it.
They had a slight argument in positioning with nnog, but not enough that it was going to take it away from them. Pyromancer's going to spawn in soon. And now we're at 19 minutes. You're talking, again, a 5,000 gold lead. It's actually a little short of 5,000 for the Storm. This is where Fire Giant conversations can really start up, especially for a team that hasn't executed. I mean, you had said it, Hámmy. Gonna be hard to step up whenever there's an Kuang on the other side. Same thing, I think it'd be said. A little easier for Bruno, but not quite as easy. Pyromancer started up. Damage is there. Getting low. Dharmic Pillars used, and a great drop from the Storm to make sure that the Wardens have just used all their utility. Globe taking an interesting trade, but it's a 2v1, and now you are caught out, Storm. They get the Pyro, but they lose over on left. And Shelly, I don't know if you caught it in there. It was a quick flash. Had another winner for the 10,000 gems giveaway that's going on right now.
Congrats, first of all, to the gems. Second of all, not congrats to Globe. Puzzling decision. I think that when you're playing a godlike set in mid and you have this build online, you feel invincible, so to speak, because you really can take just about any 1v1 in the game if you play the god correctly. Set's got an ability called Sandstorm, and it spawns infinite set clones, essentially, as long as you're getting that tick damage. You get heals every time it ticks, you get set clones, but if you don't get the heals, you don't get the set clones, and you just get out-traded. Of course, having Ratatoskr nearby just adds insult to injury, so Globe loses ultimate, both relics, and a death. Not a great situation there for the Storm, but they're doing so much good elsewhere on the map, I don't think it's going to matter too much, unless, of course, this set tries to go in again in the next, 100 seconds or so with both relics down, and that turns into another kill. That would be disastrous here for the Xibalba Storm. I do think since Primal Fury has spawned in, grouping on the left side of the map is definitely the call. You see that both Soul Landers are still just clearing back and forth. Both those towers are still available, but teleport, topic of conversation. Bruno's got it. Tegveer has to stall for 15 seconds.
It's going to be a lengthy 15 seconds, but right now, it's all over Oracles. Go the way of the Warden. Stun onto Hámmy, and the damage seems to be there. The Dharmic Pillars create a little bit of a gap, but Globe just dashes forward. Ratmilk's up in the sky, misses the dunk on nnog. Goes for the hammer teleport over towards the Primal Fury. Picoways, Bruno, now looking for some lockdown, but you got the carries, you got Globe, and it's a double kill for the mid laner. Bruno does pick up Anxoush, but it's costing so much. Tubahh gone as well. The damage for the Storm is just there, and it's just locking him down. The CC is brilliant, and the execute as well. Tegveer now using that dash to get into mid, looking for the full-on deicide, and they're going to pull relics. They're not going to get the kill here. Hámmy respawns, but Trelly, that is an open opportunity. Fire Giant and the Storm are going to take it.
Yep, like I said, grouping up for Primal Fury, great call. Grouping up for the Fire Giant after you killed 4, also a great call. Hámmy is nearby, doesn't even have the ultimate, no way to go for a steal, and the Xibalba Storm get Fire Giant on 5. Great fight. I was worried a little bit about Set wanting to go in with no relics. Turns out, get this, Gord, did not matter. Not at all. Set was still able to find 2 kills with relative ease, and a great wall from Ratmilk was able to confirm the rest of those. And of course, Tegveer even getting his hands dirty, using that execute. Bruno does not have the beats. Anytime you're in that threshold and you don't have that somersault cloud available, you're going up to the sky and getting munched on. Beautiful play from the Xibalba Storm. They've got the lead. They've got map control. And where is Picoways?
Well, caught out right now, forced into the sky. So ult taken. Maintains the beats. Maybe that's a small win. And the beacon as well, speaking of which, going to spawn in about 1:30. Primal Fury right here. A lot of opportunities and options for the Storm. That's just trying to figure out which one they want to go for. Primal Fury first up on the chopping block. They've got a double runic bomb and a lot of towers to knock down. So the Fire Giant, strong. Still a lot of time to work with. And speaking of which, the Wardens trying to make the best of their time. Push down the tier 1 in right. All 5 of them are over here. And Trelly, to me, that screams either they're racing
baby.
for a Phoenix, or like this, they're all backing as they realize, wait a minute, we're all over here.
Cowards. It wouldn't have worked out, of course. There's just way more DPS on the side of the Storm. Defending is the correct call. I mean, even if you try to trade tier 2, could be trouble, but Ratmilk's going up to the sky. The Phoenix is already gone.
And now it's a great dunk from Ratmilk, an easy kill for them to lock him down and go ahead and call it 2. The dual lane gone from the Wardens. Bruno barely makes it onto the Somersault Cloud, gets out of there. Meanwhile, what has GIobe been doing? Split pushing in mid. Took the tier 1, took the tier 2, found the Phoenix as well. So the question for the Storm, 5v3, what are your options? They're going to fall back right now, Trelly. They still got Fire Giant for a little bit. Should be able to knock down a tier 2 and right. A lot of gold to spend if they want it. They might be able to go for 3 birds, although the question is all about timing right now. 10 seconds for Hámmy, 18 for Tubahh. That seems to be enough for the Storm to say, not yet, in terms of going for the Titan.
They have to back up. Definitely a smart call. They've got some gold to spend. Considering the situation, some big power spikes, you got to think starter items being upgraded, all of that could come into play here for the Xibalba Storm. Whereas some members of the Wardens have been able to make that leap. Just Nog, the Tiamat, was able to grab that upgraded gem, which does help your tank stats. I think that has been the call here for this Tiamat. Recognizes, I see 2 assassins, I see Shinigami, there's a lot of physical damage, the breastplate will help out. But trying to survive, if you're anyone else on the side of the Wardens, has been difficult. Everyone has found multiple deaths except for this Tiamat, and it's just because of the all-out dunk squad that the Xibalba Storm has been able to have here. It really is just Ratmilk literally dunking, but everyone else has been following up so well. It doesn't seem like even the tanks can stand up to how much damage the Xibalba Storm have drafted. Yeah. And now you've got 2 Phoenixes down, which means you're not safe standing this far up in lane. You can clear a couple waves, but you got to make sure you're back in base unless you've got some fantastic ward coverage on your side of the jungle, which does not seem like the Wardens have. So they're going to have to stand back. And heck, you got enough time. Why not? The Xibalba Storm are going to group up. They're going to try to push up right lane with their Titan to get this last Phoenix. Could be one of those situations where the Wardens say, I don't think we can defend the Titan. I don't think we can defend the Phoenix, but we can sit in our base and defend in well. That shouldn't be too much of an issue until that Fire Giant actually gets enhanced. It just all depends on who's stepping forward, and it seems like the Storm are already here.
Yeah, Storm have the minion wave with them. Should be able to get rid of the Order Titan pretty easily out of the lane. And there you go, driven back. Now the question that sits on my mind, I see Shinigami going for a back, is Phoenix or Fire. Granted, sometimes in the best world you get both, but it seems like right now they kind of recognize their Titan just barely hitting halfway through the lane now. And so it is going to be a backup for the Storm. Reset. They're walking past the FG pit, Trelly. Like you said, maybe push as far as they can with that Titan, see what they can do. All it takes is 1 opening kill. Hámmy does have the Magi's bubble. Ratmilk has ult. Keep your eyes on Thor.
This Titan is tanky.
When they're going to go in. That's what happens when you get all the beacons. It feels really strong. But unfortunately not quite strong enough that the Storm are going to hedge their bets on it.
They just left him. They left him to die. Unfortunate. You deal with the Titan. We're going to go in for Fire Giant. Picoways has been split pushing this whole time trying to find farm. No one should be able to get here in time. This is going to be a free Fire Giant for the Storm. But they did stall out a bit. The Wardens, that is. Their left Phoenix should be spawning in here shortly. At least 2 fire waves to deal with on that side of the map. So the question is, do the Storm play it safe? Do they try and wait for those fire minions to push up? Or, because they have this massive lead and they've got a runic bomb in Anxoush's hands, do they just walk in? I'm thinking the smart play is to wait, but doesn't seem to be like that's their style.
No, not at all. This is a team that has been pretty much holding W for as long as they could in this game. They're probably going to need a little bit more of it. Left side, fire minions you had mentioned being dealt with by Picoways right now. And the Phoenix has respawned. Mid Phoenix has respawned. So maybe an opening for the Wardens to have a base that's defendable. Except for Globe existing and comes in, takes care of mid, sends forward a fire minion wave. Does not go for left just yet. Does pull the ult from Picoways. And now we're looking at the small engage. Right side Phoenix getting chipped away. Shinigami stunned out by Bruno. Has to walk through the Dark pillars. And now the shots, the snipes. You need one more. And it's not going to be enough to get the kill. Shinigami lives through this. And the rest of the team gets aggressive to make up for it. Globe takes out his opposing mid laner. And the jump in onto the Phoenix is successful. Now the chase down is all that matters. 1 gone. 4 in Fountain for the Wardens. It's going to be the right side Phoenix, the mid Phoenix. Maybe a fadeaway kill on Picoways as well. Tegveer almost, but not enough in terms of damage, and the Ratatoskr sent to the grayscale.
Wow. I mean, Picoways, as far as I'm concerned, did everything right. You got Brawler's Beat Stick, you hit the Scorching Blink. Just not enough damage. There was no way that 1v1 was ever going to go in your favor. And, of course, the Xibalba Storm decided, hey, maybe we don't have to leave. Maybe we can stick around for a bit longer. They've got the sustain, and there's only one more Phoenix to try and grab here. Relic-wise, not looking great for the Storm, right? It's really just Ratmilk who has everything available, but it's a half-health Phoenix. It can't be too difficult to walk up, and it seems like that bird's going to drop for free, and Tubahh actually is in trouble.
Yeah, we already talked about Globe with no Relic. Seems like a different player. Ratmilk gets the stun as well on Tubahh, just outside the Fountain. Double kill by picking up Hámmy. Has to fall back out of the Titan room here. Respawn for Picoways in 5, but you got fire minions and a numbers advantage. Aggression onto Bruno, gone, and a triple kill for the jungler. 7, 0, and 8 for Ratmilk in game 1, very decisively over to the Storm.
I mean, if Shinigami doesn't get that kill, maybe Ratmilk's in range for a penta. There was still 2 more members to try and go for, but either way, Thor was absolutely popping off there towards the end. And I gotta say, considering the builds of some of these junglers have been going more on the hybrid, the tanky sort of side, full damage Thor was looking pretty clean, especially from ahead. We saw it get rolling over in solo lane, and it just didn't stop. Both of these assassins. And throw the Kuang in there as well, all 3 of them. Just looked fantastic, considering the duo lane pressure as well as Shinigami looked relatively uncontested as well. The Storm are looking tough to beat.
And I think very easy this game to talk about Ratmilk because that slash line was insane.
Yep.
But I do think Shinigami very much a setup position for this team, right? Not necessarily what you think of out of the carry. Wasn't doing the carrying part, but was doing the stuns, was doing the lineups to make sure everybody else had it. Globe, as you had mentioned, Ratmilk and Tegveer step up to the plate. Shinigami was the one who made sure everything was just an easy knockout for him. And so they win this one in, well, they win game 1. I was going to say they win this one in 1. That's how you win a single game. I don't know where that comes from. They still have one more if they want to advance. And, of course, at least one more opportunity here for the Wardens to try and tie things up. We'll see if they're able to do it right after this. Welcome back as we continue the NA Gauntlet. And, of course, a nice little win there for the Storm. Very controlling, very commanding. And, of course, Australia, it looks good. And for them, it probably felt pretty comfortable. And I can think of
I'd say so.
At least one other thing that hits both of those marks. And that would be the T-shirts that you can get at Skulls. Of course, our partners throughout this year and last for SPL merchandise. And undisputed, the most comfortable T-shirts that I have in my dresser. It is just so fantastic. I don't know what the material is that they're using. I should probably look that up, considering it's an ad read, and I should know that. But it's really, really comfy. And, of course, the shirts themselves feel high quality. And you, right now, can get some with some new logos, styles at least, for your favorite SPL teams. Find something that's not only cozy, but also reps your favorite teams. You can go to shop.highrestudios.com/SPL, shop.smiteproleague.com, and of course pick these up. You've got the black, I'm going to go ahead and call that charcoal, but gray. Very, very fantastic designs as well. I'm a big fan of the circular logos. I know we've had them like here on the monitors in front of the desk a couple of times. They just feel good. They look good, and the shirts are cozy. So go get some while you can. And the only reason I'm not wearing one is because I get told not to wear black on broadcast. Otherwise, I'd be wearing it right now. Very cozy. Hasn't stopped Mifflin yet, though.
No.
I think last week he came in wearing the exact shirt that I was thinking that morning. Man, I wish I could put that on. Refused to.
Dude's a rebel.
Dude's a rebel. And you know what? He's comfortable while he's doing it. But Trelly, speaking of comfortable, choose a player from the Storm, and that's going to apply there, right? I feel like there's a certain point, maybe early on, Tegveer, we were talking about like 3 ganks in a row on solo lane over there. One of those resulted in a kill. That was, I think, the last time that we really got to talk about the Wardens being the ones choosing the fight.
Yep, it seemed like solo lane was a big topic of conversation. You send one gank over, doesn't go your way, Pico comes back, is actually able to kill the Kuang, and they're like, all right, good, maybe we can replicate this. Stops in its tracks. Tegveer is able to turn that gank, and then once the Kuang was online, it didn't seem like it was ever going to stop. And of course, I talked about the triple assassin threat of Kuang, Thor, and of course Set. Once again, considering Kuang being a magical assassin, they were just diving consistently. And of course, there wasn't much peel available because Hámmy had to sit there and be a solo tank for a while because Bruno wasn't rotating in. And as a Ganesha, when you're just getting executed, it's very difficult to try and peel for your backline. Multiple times we saw Globe go to the back, have huge burst damage, Ratmilk following with the dunk, and there just wasn't many answers. As far as how to deal with this for game number 2, I don't think it's as much a picks and bans issue. Of course, giving Ratmilk Thor is scary because this is a pick that he plays whenever is available. The Set is something you could certainly ban away, but the triple threat, I don't think there's any way you can afford to ban all 3 of those, quote, assassins. It's just too difficult to try and play that way.
I have to give a lot of credit. Look, I think, it's very easy. Ratmilk, absolutely insane KDA. I gave a shout-out towards the end. Shipigami 2-0 and 10. I think does a beautiful job towards the, I guess, support role from the carry, right? Anxoush, 13 assists. But it's Globe that does something, I think, Trelly, the most impressive to me, which is when relics were up, was doing pretty all right. When relics were down, would jump in and get double kills. It was absolutely like your safety mechanisms are gone. You have to rely entirely on your team for peel, and Globe did it. And the team worked out for it and around it. And those were moments, I think, that really helped the Storm maybe showcase exactly how dominating of a game that was. But like you said, partially maybe picks and bans, mostly probably play on field, maybe focus on where they're going. And at least maybe a little bit that Thor and a lot. Well, I mean, Thor, Thorn in the side.
Nice.
Sure, we'll go with that one.
That works. I like that.
Yeah, it just causes a little bit of trouble for him there. So you want to see maybe Ratmilk on something different. I'm sure the Wardens also want to see something different there for Ratmilk. So we'll jump into picks and bans. Unfortunately for the Wardens, depending on how things go in the ban section, they are now second pick, right? So first pick goes over to the Storm, which is where the Wardens were last time around. But that means that if I'm looking for a Thor, I can ban out 3 things that are irritating and try to grab him first and foremost in picks and bans.
Right, but maybe that was a decision that, hey, we can give up one thing that's, kind of annoying to deal with, and then we can get 2 things right after that are even more annoying to deal with. Always the gamble. Is that one character you're giving up just too oppressive, or are you just happy grabbing that second slide. But again, the same style of bans here for game number 2 so far. I imagine there's going to be at least one switch up. That's what I would hope. Whether that be the Thor or the Set or even maybe the Kuang, something has to be done to try and mess up the rhythm. Or I don't see why we wouldn't see a same style of play here of just let's dive as much as possible. There's the switch up. It is going to be the Set. You got to pick one, and in this case, that was the most annoying. Heck, you could grab one in this situation here if you're the Wardens, because Terra is going to be the first pick for the Storm.
I was really worried you were saying, like, you need to see a switch up, something has to get banned, like at least one of them.
There you go.
And we had gone 5 for 5 in the first 3 bans. The Yorm, the Marty, the Hachi, the other side. You had mentioned the Set, but Achilles, Baba Yaga, Terra, first pick. Thor, Wukong, right? And that's, so this is something I feel like we zone in on sometimes and we'll harp on and occasionally feel bad about it after the fact. But the Wukong first pick game 1 did not really do anything first pick worthy to me. It played well, it survived, but it wasn't anything that made me think, man, I'm really glad you let Thor and Terra through for that. And so this time around, at least getting the Thor to balance out the Wukong pick, I think feels pretty solid over in lane. Rom, Hunbatz, locked in for Storm. And Trelly, I think 2 weeks in a row we've gotten to see a Janus, and we saw some highlights, though I believe, if I remember correctly, it was Globe that was playing it, not Nog. So that's going to create some interesting conversation. Also, I remember last week you had like a little mini rant you had gone on about Janus in general that had ended with, unless you show me, like you could think 5 players max that would be okay with locking in a Janus.
Right.
And we had someone get added to the list last week. Do you think this is in a similar vein where it's just like, why are you picking him? And ideally we'll get to see why.
Well, it's one of those situations where, like Poseidon, for example, where he's, a lot of people like to play him. Not a lot of people play him well. I think that Janus can be a game changer. He can easily carry a game if he just AFK farms, gets level 20, starts one-shotting. I love that playstyle. If it's shown here, and that depends on how the Wardens want to play. They've got global presence, they've got the Darkest of Nights with the X-Ball, they've got the Thor. They can certainly build a comp around this and say, hey, we're going to hide in the jungle, we're going to make some cross-map rotations, we're going to look for picks like that. That is a completely valid and I think strong way to play. But the Storm, they've got a lot of CC to try and deal with that. The Hunbat's ultimate, for example, the Rama snipes. Trying to chase down Janus is always the most annoying part. Throw some more globals in there. I can see where the Wardens are going for here. Movement, right? Oh, you're halfway pushed up the lane on the other side of the map. We're on the way. Get in. We're going. And we are going to try and punish you for that. So the Wardens have definitely shown their hand a bit here with their top 5. It's clear that they want to try and play on opposite sides of the map and maybe use this split push to their advantage. We'll see if the Storm have enough to try and deal with it.
It's going to be a lot of interesting pressure. I had a small thought at the very end, which is, first off, when was the last time we saw Chiron? Probably Venenu at some point. And then on top of that, real happy Chiron isn't available because that would make things very confusing if they're both in the same game. Right now, though, we only have to deal with the one. We'll see how it works in game 2. 1-0 up for the Storm. Wardens fighting for their tournament life right here, their Gauntlet life. Again, winner. If the Storm are able to close this one out, go up against the Scorpions. The Wardens win this one. They get one more opportunity to try to find the same fate. It'll be myself, Trelly, and Doug one more time. And Trelly, I've got to ask, you're swapping in. You had mentioned the globals. Chat maybe leaning a little bit, let's say sort of in favor of the Wardens, but 57% for the Storm after last game. 2 Assassins, throwing out Kuang into that category. And double Hunter as well. How do you feel about the Storm's opportunities? Early game, are we looking at ganks that are going to go the way of the Wardens and then eventually we're going to find the breaking point like we did last time? Or are the Storm able to control a lot more with this kind of composition?
Well, here's what I'll tell you, Gore. I'm a Chiron enjoyer. I think that Chiron mid absolutely slaps if you're able to get that Transcendence and one extra item online, usually Jotuns, but in this case, maybe Brawlers. You could essentially one-shot a Janus from CC, especially if just Terra walks up, hits a root, you hit all 3 snipes, you hit Masterful Shot, Janus dies, especially because you're not going to get Aegis till level 12. However, the early clear is bad. That's why I think we saw the switch up there of the clear. Globe was the one who went for speed buff and just sent Ratmilk over to pull the camps together there for Tegveer. Chiron's early clear is just abysmal. I mean, even with Bluestone, it is just tragic. I end up using the Horn Shard every time if I'm trying to clear early just because of how rough it is. But once you get Transcendence, that gets kind of solid. Picoways, does he have the wall here? He does, but Shinigami's on the wrong side. Is not going to be able to find any aggression there. At the very least, pulls the beads, and now this Rama's going to have to play a bit safer as this game continues.
Now, you had mentioned at least the experience you've had ranked-wise with Picoways.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe that's the kind of game that we're going to get. A lot of pressure last time was on the right lane for the Wardens, and it just did not really amount to too much. Right now, we're seeing that a little bit. Ratmilk's over here. Tegveer getting some poke on the Bruno. I think it's just splitting farm more than anything. But in my mind, it's a nice change of pace to see Picoways at least show up over on left, force the beads, as you had mentioned. Maybe get some pressure on. Not a lot of other opportunities that are going to be as easily accessible. I mean, we saw how slippery that Kuang can be. But I feel like a Thor dunk can be a little more devastating than a Rat dunk at times.
Yeah, I think it depends on, the situation, but in this case, beads are down. Shinigami needs to watch out for the 100-0 potential at level 5 if Picoways spends more time on the left side of the map, which he has been hinting at because of that early gank. And what I think the big change-up was, of course, in game number 1, Picoways spent a lot of time over on solo, didn't quite work out, and I think Tegveer was playing relatively safe. This time around, if you remember the damage number, Shinigami did like 30k, more than anyone in that lobby. And Pico said, okay, I'm going to have to deal with someone specific, and I'm going to have to spend some more time over on the left side of the map this time around. Maybe we'll see more pressure towards this Rama as the game continues.
Yeah.
But I do want to see Ratmilk and GIobe in particular trying to find some pressure towards the Janus. A very slippery character, but if you get the beads down and you find some good damage through space and time is great, but Chiron's ultimate Centaurus goes so far, and I think Pico might be going for an ult here.
Yeah, he's going to look for a little bit. Oh my god, just deleted. And now it's going to be the Fear No Evil in retaliation. You want to kill to try and balance things out, but Picoways is off towards the side. You've got a 4v2. Yeah, the Storm recognizing an opportunity is not going to arise. And instead they back up. What a combo from the Wardens. And poor Anxoush. He's going to have some anxiety about that throughout the game.
Yep, from downtown. I mean, just beautiful chain stun into the through space and time. It's a great way to use that ultimate. We talked about globals, and that's going to be the topic of conversation for the rest of this game. Shinigami just barely cripples out the stun, has to hide behind the Bastion. Is the bolus enough there? No, he gets to live. That's insane. Remember, his beads are still down. He had to hit that cripple arrow, 12 HP, or he gets stunned, and that's an easy kill for Tubahh. Beautifully played. And honestly, probably a little bit of luck with those branching bolus.
That might be the most useful I've ever seen one of those Bastions be.
Yep.
Like, actively, right? Passively, they're pretty nice. But wow, the jukes around that. Nothing short of impressive there from Shinigami. And Trelly, I think that is a huge deal that the kill doesn't happen.
Yep.
Strictly because if Anxoush dies, then you see Shinigami die. Suddenly we're having a rough conversation. Tubah's farm is probably going to be coming into the equation, talking about the gold, the experience, and pressure that the Wardens are going to be able to exert then on the left side of the map. Now, instead, things stay roughly equal. Yes, you're still knocked back to base. Tubahh should be up, at least an item on you, presumably. It's only going to be the Cursed Gauntlet, so you're not even falling behind there, if anything. That was a back that you were probably planning in the meantime. You just didn't think it'd be with 13 HP that you'd have to make it back.
Didn't think so. A little bit of aggression towards Hámmy, but the giddy up gets him out of the way of the stun. Little unfortunate there with the CC chain. But this is, again, kind of what you expect from a mid lane Chiron. It's oh, Picoways goes in for the ult. I think maybe GIobe was just walking away for no reason. Maybe was privy that the ultimate was coming either way. A little bit unfortunate that Anvil of Dawn's off the mark there. Point being, you don't find too much aggression. No, this is going to be trouble. Even if you go through the portal, Centaur's only 2 shots connect. You should have the damage just to ult out here, but sends it back just to do some extra DPS. That's confidence. When you go to leave and you're like, I'll just use it as some extra DPS.
Yeah, I don't need these portals to disengage. I'm going to take you down to half health. GIobe, Anxoush, both in a dangerous spot after that. Not enough aggression from the Wardens. And it's been 30 minutes, Trelly. Here's another 10,000 gem winner. And it feels like an opportune time to just go ahead and mention, if you've been seeing those, you're just wondering, what's going on? For year 10, we are giving away 10 million gems. I believe it is 1,008 winner. It's technically 10,080,000 gems. And all you have to do to enter is play Smite. If you play within the last hour, you'll be entered essentially just automatically to win. And the polls are every 30 minutes. So right now it is noon here in the Eastern time zone. So at 12:30 there will be another. If you play anytime in the last hour, I guess now last 30 minutes and then the next 30 minutes, you'll be in a good spot to potentially win 10,000 gems. And that's going to be going on every 30 minutes, 24 hours for a long time. You got a while to try and get those wins. That is a lot of people and a lot of gems. So make sure that you're getting in, getting some game time on. We can be on the second monitor, enjoy some Smite while you play some Smite. Do your best.
I'm playing right now.
Yeah, Trelly earned 10,000 gems, and it was honestly a miracle we got him to come in today, man. He's like, yo, I'm going to be there for how many hours? Do you know how many opportunities I might miss out on?
But it's all worth it. When you see the action like this. Not particularly right now. There hasn't been too much action. I have liked the Horus ultimate trying to catch out Anxoush there at the chess camp, but it seems like the Storm are privy to the fact that they don't have enough damage to get aggressive just yet. One more item or so. Big power spike. Like I said, Chiron early, not the greatest. We saw Globe go in for a Centaurus onto Nog. Only hit one of the shots, but either way, did not do enough damage. You throw a Jotuns or a Brawlers into the mix, that's when you're chunking, especially past level 9, because you get a second point into your ultimate, and that's when you're really starting to do that extra DPS. What I haven't seen, though, Gore, is anything from Ratmilk. I mean, it's been defensive Fear No Evils here, maybe. Waiting for the portal, sits there, and Picoways goes to the back line.
Yeah, there's the Fear No Evil you've been waiting for, but the damage just isn't there. You're Hunbats, you're early in the game. You don't have enough to find the kill. And even though it's beautiful, it's just not enough. Doesn't even pull the beads because there was never a threat. The Wardens hold on to enough. Trelly, they show. In this case, I'll say no fear.
Ooh, you did it to him?
Yeah. That's unfortunate.
If you fear no evil, and you just don't beads in the face of that ultimate, you definitely didn't fear it. And in this case, I think you're right. It was a good play, too. I mean, Ratmilk waits on the other side of the green buff, says, hey, there's only one place for Nog to portal out. It's going to be right here. I'm going to wait for it. And he said, oh, you're level 8 Hunbats? Yeah, I'm not going to beat that. I'm going to eat this damage. No problem at all. And I think it's got a little bit to do with Picoways. He ults to the backline, puts pressure onto Globe, makes him not charge up his Centaur shots perfectly. Now Anxoush could be falling down here. Plenty of damage. The cleanse. I was going to say, isn't enough, but it is. The wall and the snipes come through, but Anxoush gets out again with such low HP.
The cleanse, the shell, that little teensy bit of healing.
Was it a poultice diff? It might have been a poultice diff.
Man.
It might have been the Chiron passive that ticked a little bit of extra HP. Shippigami might need a poultice here.
This is gonna be dangerous. You need something. You don't got it. And Tubahh's gonna get the kill there. They at least make up for a little bit there. If two people, and it's the duo lane, get out 2 times in a row, has to feel devastating now. Picoways up into the air stun. Gonna be good. Just off the mark, though. For the Wombo combo, didn't stop Nog from doing 1,000 damage. There's the Centaurus shots, a little short. Gonna have the slow. Chase down is on from Ratmilk. The overhead smash finds exactly what you need. And I would say, Trelly, in this case, a necessary kill for the Storm to keep things from spiraling.
Big time. Trying to upset the momentum that the Wardens have been able to build for themselves. Missing the ultimate and, I could call it both ultimates there. Through Space of Time and Anvil of Dawn. Missing off of Globe was big. The Nog is rotating over to the blue buff. Not to look for a kill, just to help to make sure that the blue buff goes down in favor of Bruno. But Ratmilk still has the ultimate. Fear No Evil is available. I was wondering if Bruno was going to step forward. Stop in the back is smart here. You could look for an execute. There is no beads, but Bruno's got teleport. He says, I can back up, no problem, and still get back in for this wave. So no aggression towards the solo lane for now. I still got my eyes on the left side of the map, though. It does seem like Shippigami is in a completely opposite position as last game. 3 levels down. Tubahh is, I mean, in heaven on that side of the map, essentially. There is no pressure towards the Xbalanque anytime soon.
Nothing to be worried about. Maybe late game snipes? Maybe. Right now, if you're Shippigami, you should be worried about a whole lot. Hámmy leading the way, but aggression around the XP camp. And stealing, I believe, 2 of those. The Stygian Beacon going to be coming in 30 seconds, right? Spawns at 12. Maybe a spot for a fight. Maybe duo lane. If that ward wasn't there, would have been the spot for aggression. But spotted out in the jungle is Ratmilk, purple buff. Going to be spawning soon. Hámmy has to play carefully here. CC'd by Anxoush. Maybe surprised, at least a little bit, to see that the Storm aren't looking for the kill this time around. They're just waiting. Farming up, maybe playing the late game. Beacon getting massively captured by the Wardens. So with damage like that on the globe, I don't know that there's going to be an argument about it here for the first capture of the game. And that one's going to go over to the Wardens. I think the Storm are just happy to get away without anyone dying. Gold Fury, though, it's a different part of the equation. Getting burned down, all 5 members of the Wardens over here. You need someone to come around. Ratmilk looking to step in. Anxoush as well, tries to, not able to find anything. And is it too late for the setup, too late for the fight? They got Picoways, they got Hámmy. They don't have them locked down. Picoways goes up into the air. Hámmy slowed down. But a small prize for the Storm in the face of a capture and the Gold Fury. But Tegveer goes in. It's looking for a little bit more, I think, in terms of the fight, but the team's so far behind, they aren't able to get anything.
Yeah, I mean, Ratmilk had the ultimate, was holding on to Fear No Evil, trying to see if they could catch out Picoways there, but now Tubahh steps forward to try and defend the purple buff. Will you drop the ultimate, though, is the question. No, just the purple buff invade and a full-on retreat call here for the Storm. They recognize when they can stand forward, and they recognize when they have to back up, and that Fury burn too quickly. Just try and pick up as many picks as possible on your way out, and of course, try and get Shippigami caught up. Remember, it was 9-12 before that pull began. Now 12-13. Seems a bit more manageable for the duo lane. And I've been questioning the power spikes, the damage being dealt here on the left side of your map as far as the Xibalba Storm go, because the Wardens, they clearly have the DPS. Every time Nog shows up, this Janus is half-healthing someone, and if the ultimate connects, they are definitely dying. But so far, it seems like the Xibalba Storm still have some power spikes they have to hit. And I will die on this hill. I do not like the fail not build on all ability-based hunters. There are some that works out pretty well. The Uller, the Marty, for example. You've got a stun. You've got CC that sets up the auto attacks.
Yeah.
Chiron, I would argue 75% of his damage is from a range outside of an auto attack, right? You are trying to use that ultimate. You're using your abilities. You hit an auto, masterful shot, then you back up. The fail not just seems like an odd choice in this slot.
Well, we'll see if it works out. Or if maybe it's just the damage. I mean, at this point, we're used to talking about it. I've seen Centaurus start several fights. Right now, it's Picoways. Goes up, dunks down. Wide on the engage. Double tap is there. Teleports to the hammer. Looking for a little bit more globe. Taking a lot of damage. Turns things around. Centaurus shots coming through. Now we're looking for some snipes. One connects. Now too far out of range. Has to fire the other two haphazardly. There's the Fear No Evil. Hámmy might be the sacrificial lamb, but no, just gets away. No lockdown from the Storm. I mean, Trelly, it has been a huge turnaround. They need something big. The solo laner's rotating in. Nog locked around. And good lockdown from the Storm. Finally get them a kill. Bruno jumps in. Falls back here. Good double tap from Picoways. Kills off Shippigami like it's nothing. Tubahh in a little bit of trouble. But there's no follow-up here for the Storm. Pico makes sure that they don't come away empty-handed. A lot of aggression. Goes 1 for 1, but it's a carry for a mid laner. 0-2 now for Shippigami.
So far, I mean, this aggression has been punished from both of these squads. 3-3 has been the call. It is a little bit questionable how much Shippigami has been playing aggressively, considering, again, farm is so important when you're this far behind. You need to, choose your battles wisely. It's unfortunate those snipes were not able to connect from. You saw Shippigami hit a couple, but it was more so globe. The Centaurs could not really connect onto Picoways there. But it's not going to be the end of the world. I have been liking the solo lane rotations. This has been a lot more action from both Bruno and Tegveer so far. There was a lot of fighting in lane last round, but this time around it's been, hey, we got to go over to the left side of the map. We have to fight in duo lane. And it hasn't all been from teleports. Considering Tegveer doesn't even have teleport, you got to walk the whole way over to the left side of the map. And with Primal Fury spawning in here shortly, I'm thinking those solo laners are going to have to mosey on over, because we might see another fight somewhere in the next 30 seconds or so.
You got to be careful. I mean, Anxoush, we saw, got deleted early this game. I'd be so worried about that the entire time. You get smacked by one stun, which I guess is where the Magi's comes in handy. Your life can fall apart. It's 3-3. Gold now 17 minutes in, favoring the Wardens. 2100, same thing for the experience in favor of the Wardens, mainly seeing that difference over in the carry role. Everybody else is maybe a small lead, actually a little behind for Picoways. 3 levels up for Tubahh. Makes it a lot easier to make a conscious decision of going for a Primal Fury. The Wardens lining up over on left, but it doesn't seem like they're ready to commit just yet. Jelly, we don't shame anybody for that. Sometimes commitment's scary.
Nice.
And instead, we'll turn our eyes maybe towards the beacon here soon, both spawning up around the same time.
Yep, I saw a little bit of rotation, right? Because Tegveer was on the right side of the map. He was split pushing. Bruno had an option. Do I channel this teleport over to left and go for Primal Fury, or do I make sure my tier 1 tower doesn't go down and rotate to that side? And it seems that the call was, hey, we can always go for Primal Fury. Let's stop that split push. But because of that split up, the Xibalba Storm able to grab a free Pyromancer, get the Runic Bomb in Ratmilk's pocket, while the Wardens just sat by. It looks like they were more focused on the beacon that's spawning here shortly and the possibility of finding a gank here onto Ratmilk. Beads go down. Is the wall good? It's not. Ratmilk gets to live to see another day.
Yeah, he uses the Fear No Evil defensively, but maybe with some setup for his team. Not quite maybe what you would need. Level 17 here for Globe. Beacon spawns in, is capturable. Picoways, the only one standing on it. Does capture faster the more people you have there. And so they're going to start stacking a double. Just hanging out. Ults over to the left.
Wow, he got out.
Tried to catch out Shippigami.
He was backing very close to that arrow, but it did not hit.
Luckily, Nog was just off the mark there. Now Primal started up, and you know that there's a couple ults down on the Wardens if you're the Storm here. Anxoush, below half health, has to be careful for the engage. Globe, Tegveer, and the rest of the team in the neighborhood. Charlie, it seems like they're going to go ahead and hedge their bets, assume that the Wardens didn't quite catch them backing, and recognize that they don't have quite the power they need to just challenge this forthright. And instead let that one go, which means Beacon goes the way of the Wardens, but with the Pyro going towards the Storm, gold lead stays roughly the same.
Well, they just use so much, right? The Wardens, they recognized that Shippigami was up towards tower. They used the Janus ultimate to try and stop his back. All the while, Hámmy is channeling to the skies to try and get everyone over there to try and, you know, not only stop the back, but kill him afterwards. And then Shippigami just backs in their face. When you use 2 ultimates like that, you don't go for the pull after. I think Janus in particular is one of those characters that just loses so much value with the ultimate being down. And I respect this. This is the, in my eyes, when you're not up against something like the Susano, when you're not up against a pick that can just chase you through portals, blink is almost always the play on the Janus. I love this a lot. You go through a portal, you blink, you use your ultimate. No one should be able to chase you down. Of course, Chiron, if you're building full ability damage, might be able to one-shot you through having no Aegis. But Globe is building more auto attack. The Vital Amplifier, the Fail Not, you're not going to be able to 100-0 Janus with that build, so I don't think that Nog really has to worry about it until much, much later on. Once again, though, Picoways finds some good damage on a Shippigami on the left side of the map. You'd think the Wardens would be able to go in for a pull here, try and bait someone in. They've got the globals to chase you down if you get too close, but so far, they haven't been feeling too confident. Maybe it's confidence in their late game or lack of confidence in their team fight. Considering the kills are even, maybe it is the latter. They haven't stopped from looking. Anxoush and Hámmy have been pulling each other's Magi's bubbles pretty consistently. They recognize these tanks are a good target, and finally the Primal Fury starts up, and Anxoush is already here.
Spots it out. D wards deep around there, thanks to Globe. Primal Fury, half health, up into the sky. Goes Picoways. Waiting for him is a masterful shot upon landing. It's going to go pretty deep. The damage is going to be there. Snipes from Shippigami. Ward away the Wardens from the Primal Fury itself. Now the DPS is up for the Storm. They're going to start this up. Fear No Evil goes massive towards the back, finds 3. but is not able to find the kill just yet. Damage spread all around, but Tegveer isolated. Tegveer alone, no execute to get out, and no help from the team gives a kill over to the Wardens. Now the chase is on, the damage is there. You need a couple autos, and Globe is gone. Tubahh with a double, and now the chase continues for the team. Anxoush slowed down, Shippigami pushed under tower, and there's nowhere left to run. Some clean kills, a triple for the carry on the Wardens, and they get to back away from this fight happy, Trelly.
Yep, they're able to retreat. The call is, do you go for Primal or do you back immediately and head towards Fire Giant? They're not backing, so it does seem like Primal Fury is the call. With everyone dead and no real globals, that could have been a free Fire Giant, but maybe they were fearful of Ratmilk. They didn't know the cooldown on Fear No Evil, and they decide to give the respect and just go in for a tier 1 tower in mid and the Primal Fury. That's a beautiful fight, though, in favor of the Wardens. All the while, Picoways gets caught out. He has to ult out, but Shippigami goes in for the snipes to try and finish the kill, and it just didn't seem like they were that locked in to finding the pick onto Thor. All the while, the lights off from Tubahh was massive. It really did discombobulate the fight. And the Wardens are feeling pretty confident with a 4-0 Xbalanque in their backline. Right side of the map, now the topic of conversation. That Fury is gone, and Fire Giant and Pyromancer are things that the Wardens should certainly be looking towards.
It should be, with the amount of shred we just saw. Pretty easy to grab a Pyromancer. 23 minutes into the game now. The Wardens finally escalated beyond that. It was 2,100 gold for the longest time, now breaking 5K. And they're going to go ahead and continue to push that envelope as far as they can. Pyromancer started up. No contest here. The Wardens will scoop that one up. Someone needs to pick up the runic bomb. Tubahh will be the option there. You have to be careful. The global ultimates. Trelly, you were talking about it in picks and bans. We've really got to see them come together, I think, this time around, right? Individually, they were a nuisance. Team fight-wise, it is just impressive. The amount of damage they're able to get down, engage, disengage. It feels like the Wardens at any point can start a fight, or any point can say that they're done with the fight. And there's not much the Storm can really say about it. This might be... could have been another example. Tier 1 on right, knocked down by the Wardens. And they're going to go ahead and reset as all eyes turn towards the Fire Giant.
Yeah, I don't hate this play. The Wardens are playing their lead perfectly. But Fire Giant needs to be done here soon, or try to punish Shippigami, because he's just slid pushing. We saw his build last game. He wants to get that Death's Temper, and he wants to get that Silver Branch. He's just far off from a power spike. This Rama's not going to be doing too much until those two items are online. And if you're just going to let him get online before you go in for Fire Giant, doesn't seem like the greatest idea. But Beacon spawns in here. Surely the Wardens are already there. So maybe that's the call. Get one more Beacon. Maybe you push with your Titan. Maybe you go for Fire Giant. But either way, you are still denying farm from the Xibalba Storm. This lead is so massive, though, that Fire Giant, after the Titans, should definitely be something that the Wardens are looking at. They've got so much mobility. They can just traverse the map really whenever they want. And if they catch someone too far up, something like that globe takes a lot of damage. Pico's going to the sky. He can't reach, though. Maybe Janus goes in for the ultimate, and he does, but it's actually on Anxoush.
Finds the damage. There's going to be the lights turned out. Anxoush needs a little bit of help. The dive into the Phoenix even comes through for the Wardens, and that's going to ward them away. Now, 3v5, Shippigami, Tegveer, Ratmilk. Even the blink forward from Tegveer.
Got the ult.
Forces the ult from Bruno. That should be a very easy clone kill and disengage from the Wardens. Ults, relics, a little bit of everything used in that fight. The gold still in their favor. And as you had mentioned, Titans, as it is said, the binds of Tartarus mean nothing anymore. They're going to go ahead and start walking down mid as they're unleashed. And so I guess the question, I see the positioning. This to me looks like a let the Titans do whatever the Titans are going to do and let's go for Fire Giant. But do you have a preference on which one you try to make the play for?
I don't hate if the Wardens want to fight, and it does seem to be that has been their call more often than not. They don't like the 50-50 on Fire Giant because of how much range and the Fear No Evil. The Xibalba Storm have some abilities to disrupt the pull or the burst. They've been using their global to their advantage, right? Nog has been sending the team through the walls to try and cut off if anyone steps up too far, and that ping is exactly too far. If you go that far out of tier 2 and Bruno's able to catch you out, they are going to go through the wall and try and kill you. But now the Titan has been dealt with, and they are going to group towards this Fire Giant. Question is, can the Storm get in there in time? Do they have any opportunity to go in for a steal? And can they outburst this Janus? All questions that will be answered very soon.
Well, Titans sent back to base. Fire Giant uncontested. Wardens should have this one pretty easily. Thought even a Primal Fury maybe getting started up from the Storm, but no. Just walks by for Shinigami looking for General Farm. Had to even be careful. They have to be making the play for the Fury here. Shinigami has to be careful, though. Walked across a ward. Does get back to base in time. Primal Fury started up by the Wardens. And that is going to be one Runic Bomb in pocket from the Fury, or the Pyromancer, not too long ago. Now the Fury plus the Fire. And soon enough, another Pyromancer spawning in. More than likely. To the victor go all the spoils. Looking towards the Wardens here to make the offensive plays. Tier 2 still standing on the side of the Storm. A little bit of wiggle room defensively, but Trelly, I think emphatically it is defensively that they are playing if you were looking at the Xibalba Storm.
Certainly have been. And now, pushing up on the right side of the map is Ratmilk. Shinigami, again, I've been looking at that power spike. Gets the Death's Temper, yes, but has not gotten that Silver Branch. That's the really big spike where Rama starts shredding everyone in his path. Don't think it's going to be left alone. Look at Tubahh. Full itemization, has 2 crit items in the form of Ornate Arrow, that starter upgrade, and still has the Exekins and Dominance, which means the Shipilanque is going to continue to be a problem for the front and back line on the side of the Xibalba Storm. But as you highlighted, there are still Tier 2 towers to go through, so defense could be the call here for the Storm. How safe are you feeling underneath your Tier 2s as opposed to a Phoenix? Doesn't seem like very on the left side of the map, but a bit of a soft defense towards the mid-tier 2 with Tegveer and Ratmilk. Trying to pull beats, also a great idea before the fight begins. If Ratmilk has an easy target to blink onto, maybe the fight goes a bit easier, but it's actually the Wardens. Remember, they've got to the skies. Hámmy could take them and some minions just about anywhere. They're grouped up on the left side of the map for now.
4-1 split, Tier 2 in mid. Pressured by Bruno. Everybody else hanging out on the left. Xibalba Storm have to mount a defense. Ults available, relics available. But there go the lights. Anxious steps forward to try and get some vision, but the Phoenix just getting burned down. No way, it doesn't quite fall. All he needs is a little bit of a step in from the Wardens. They're going to go ahead and do that. Knock down the Phoenix. Dunk from Picoways goes a little too far. Does not quite find the targets that he needs, but it does not matter. The damage is still there. Tegveer forced to fall back. Anxious as well. Knocked into the fountain. Left side Phoenix gone. And now mid is going to be the target. Minion wave just too far out. Damage.
Janus ult.
Started up. Janus ult finds 2. Gets a lot of damage, but execute is good. On to Bruno. Nog has to get away. Does the Kuang go in? And he does. Tegveer looks for a little more. Can't quite close that gap. But defend the Phoenix. No, they don't even defend the Phoenix. It falls at the very end. Wardens pick up 2 Phoenixes, only lose their solo laner, and successfully keep the Storm locked in their base.
Yep, finding the kill was nice, but losing 2 Phoenixes on the first Fire Giant push of the game, not a great look for the Xibalba Storm, and 12,000 behind as well. That just makes things so much more difficult, because you don't have that same level of global presence the Wardens have. You can't just defend left wave and mid wave and enhance Fire Giant. It's not going to happen. Considering the fact that the Wardens have the ability to say, hey, whoever's defending that left side bird, we're going to just global on, is trouble. But this is a great play. Group up in the jungle, see who steps forward. Nog does have the beads and the ultimate, but see who you can find. Looks like Tubahh might walk into this trap. He's the only one who's close by, but Anxoush just reveals them so early before the fight even begins. And now it looks like they might be getting wrapped on themselves. Hámmy and Picoways have the cutoff.
And they're potentially getting cut off here. Globe knocked up. And a little bit of danger with how low he is. Lights turned off. Aegis gets dropped by Globe. There's the dunk from Picoways off the mark. And the damage turnaround not there. Nog finds so much. Fear no evil goes massive, but just not massive enough. The kills rolling through clean for the Wardens. 4 gone on the Storm, and 4 gone is this game. Wardens get to march it down, go straight through mid. And Trelly, barring a miracle from Tegveer, they're going to win game 2 and tie things up.
Yeah, he's got no beads, no relics available. It does not seem like he's going to have enough damage to stop this one. Beautifully played by the Wardens. This global composition just seemed way too much to try and deal with, especially because of the lead that was built, not only from Picoways, but from nnog and Tubahh. A 3-level differential over on the left side of the map. That is rough. I mean, that is very hard to try and come back from. I like the call. Group up. You've got a 5v4 for a little bit longer. Maybe you find the gank. And I think Tubahh might have walked up, but Anxoush jumped the gun a little bit. A little bit too far forward, revealed it. And they said, wait, they're over there? We're actually behind them. Let's just go in for the cutoff. And that's as easy as an end call as it gets.
Man, I'm starting to think Thor pretty good, huh? I mean, it's 2 games in a row. We see a Thor have a really, really great game and control a lot of the pace early on. Have to give a little bit of the shout-out. We don't see Janus a lot. When we do lately, it's only been played well. I feel like the people who are locking him in understand what they're doing, and that's what we get here. Wardens keep things tied up and keep it spicy. Now it's all down to just 1 game. Storm Wardens winner will move on and play the Scorpions, but they still got 1 more to play to figure that one out. So we'll find out who it is right after this. Well, it all comes down to this. Tied 1-1. Winner moves on to face the Scorpions. Loser is just done. Eliminated from the Gauntlet Storm. And, of course, the Wardens to take each other on. Gore and Trelly to take you through what will be, I'm sure, another exciting game between these two. It has been back and forth. Thor, so far, I feel like has been a very deciding factor, though I think that maybe undermines a little bit of what we've seen both of these games from the accompanying cast that have joined him. But Trelly, it just feels like, I don't know, there's just so much I think that both of these teams have had to offer. And both of them kind of proving, at least right now, why they earned their spots in the SCC to begin with, and now trying to climb up. I mean, going up against the Scorpions, trying to just face the Gauntlet in general, it's not an easy task, and they're showcasing very early on that is going to be the case. But it makes me think of last week, and that is to say that the Tanuki had a very grueling set one where they go 2-1, they find that win, and then the rest of the day, they just won out. It was 2-0, 2-0 after that. So maybe this is just going to be another setup for whoever finds the win here, some warm-ups that are necessary. There was just too much going right for the Wardens this game to overcome if you're the Storm.
Yep, I think that we've been talking about picks and bans. Game number 1, Set was the takeaway that the Wardens decided that they were not going to let through for the Storm this time around. Thor sneaks its way through. The Janus may also be in that topic of conversation. I think nnog had a fantastic performance on this Janus. There's so much burst damage, so much confirmation of movement through the map with the unstable vortex just going through the wall, and of course the threshold just speeding up the team. So there's a lot to be taken away in this one. I don't think that the Chiron was my favorite pick, especially the auto attack style of build I felt could have been used elsewhere. So if we're looking at things to change up, because of course in game number 1 the Wardens had to make some adjustments. In game number 2, now it's time for the Storm. Maybe you're only letting that Thor through if you're going to grab it yourself, and if that's the case, the Janus might be something you try to grab for yourself as well. I know that GIobe likes to play that pick, so it seems like both of these mid laners and jungle are having some contention in their god pools.
Well, last time around, all it took was a set ban, and then, Terra first pick into a Thor counter favors the Wardens. Now, Wardens will once again be first pick, so the question is on them. Last time around, look, I'm going to be honest, the Wukong, it's been great, but it has not been first pick. And so knowing that they're going back, Bruno, I anticipate going back to the pick. We'll see, I guess, whether or not it is up at the very top. Picks and bans, game 3. Winner take all, loser, go home here in the Gauntlet. Bans will start out. And Trelly, I'm going to cover them up for a second. And I'm going to assume at least half of them, that's 3 out of the 6, at least half of them are going to be the exact same. Presumably a little more, though, considering what we saw last time. It was 5. I believe of the 6 that had stayed the same from game 1 to game 2.
Oh,
now we'll see, and there has been a shift up. The Achilles stays the same, and at least nail it. The Jormungandr, the Marty, and the Baba Yaga, despite the fact that Baba Yaga is being banned by the other side, still on that list. Set, Terra, banned out by the Wardens alongside the Achilles. Thor, first pick, makes way more sense to me, and Trelly, after the performance it just had, can't argue against it.
But here's the real change-up, right? Hachiman gets through. That means the Storm are able to grab that for free. But I want to know what this second pick is going to be. Wow. It actually is going to be the Wukong. Maybe not something that they were worried about, but at the very least putting Bruno onto something different. That could be the change-up that could help you out and saying, hey, we've been playing a lot of Kuang so far this tournament. We're going to switch it up. I do like the top 2, but you have given up the Thor, which is a little bit of an issue so far from what we've been able to see, but maybe the Storm have dished up some answers for the Thor.
Xibalbastorm. Very loudly announcing he's summoning the apocalypse, and he's here to stay alongside the Yana. Look, man, I don't care that you took away the Wukong. They just got 3 of the absolute devastating hard hitters from the last game. Thor, Xbalanque. You know, we talked a lot about what the Thor ults were doing. The burst damage, I think, out of the Janus was very high on that list. But Tubahh has to be mentioned because Tubahh was up 3 levels for a majority of that game. Literally until he hit level 20. It just feels like something you're going to have to fight uphill if you're the Storm. The Rom didn't work out too well, but they did go for the Maui this time instead of the Terra, so we'll see how that affects them. Bans come through. Odin, as well as the Horus, banned out by the Storm. Other side, Batz and Discordia, trying to kind of blast both roles. Lets the Ratatoskr through, and earlier today, Trelly, we saw the Rat versus Thor jungle matchup. Thor got the better end of that. We'll see what Ratmilk is able to do to try and... Look, they've got something in common, right? Ratatoskr, Ratmilk. You've got to think that synergy. That has to contribute to something.
Yeah, maybe. Ratmilk has the synergy down, but the rest of the picks come through. The Susano comes through. Maybe this Thor goes over to the solo lane now. That could be a decent switch up. And the Zhong hover. That is not something that I would have expected. There's a lot of like off-meta picks that I think can still pop off, and Zhong is certainly still one of them, but might be interesting. If you're the Janus, I don't think you can go blink anymore. You got to watch out for the burst damage that Zhong can provide. But this is an interesting draft here for the Xibalba Storm. I love the top three. That all makes sense to me. The Rat and the Zhong. Some question marks, but I'd love to see how they perform in a team fight setting. 5v5, that comp pops off.
Well, we saw 3 out of 5 of what the Wardens were able to do last time around, and we know that can be really good. I guess the real question right now is what the Storm locked in enough when backs are against the wall. You can tell me as we jump into Game 3 here. How are the Storm feeling? And what should people be voting for if they're in chat right now?
That's a good question. My votes are definitely leaning more Warden heavy after I've seen the picks and bans. Just because I love the Thor solo. I love the Susano. I love what Nog's been able to do on this Janus. And Tubahh had a fantastic performance on the X-Ball. As far as I'm concerned, their momentum has not been thwarted in these picks and bans. But there is definitely room for a pop-off. Oh, man.
Oh, my God.
Well, after what we just watched, I can't blame him. But there's definitely room for a pop-off here. Duo lane, the Zhong. Yeah, there's question marks throughout from the Storm's draft.
That's the biggest gap I think we have seen.
Yep.
And I might even be willing to say it might be the biggest gap we see, period, throughout all of this. 11% of people... I'm wondering how many of them are like me. Whenever I see polls going on in the chat, especially if it's like a channel points poll, I will, self-admittedly, sometimes put some of those, especially like from a spy game, throw some of those on the underdog because I want a big payout. We'll see. I guess for those of you, those 11%, those brave 11% that were proud to stand up for what they believed in spite of what peer pressure and society was telling them to do in terms of voting for this specific game. We'll see if you get paid off here by the Storm. Hámmy, Tubahh, Shiπigami, and Anxoush over here. It's been a lot of interesting poke, and Hámmy right now in a little bit of danger. Maui showcasing his strengths. Blink forward, dash forward. Stun from Ratmilk, but too much of a disengage. Picoways, the Susano, following pretty close behind. So that one falls almost as fast as it begins. The Storm, though, showing willingness right now, Trelly, and something that I wanted to see from Game 2, now to Game 3. Willingness to get aggressive, willingness to fight, and to step up when they need to. And I think seeing Ratmilk get aggressive is a good sign that they're still fighting.
Yep, no doubt. Wanted to try and find the kill on the Hámmy, or maybe pull beads off of Tubahh. Is not able to find either of those things, but Anxoush definitely pulled under tower for at least one shot. Goes up, down, and decides to not hang around and build up those tower shots. Definitely a smart call with that Maui solar swing. But looking at the builds, it does seem like, you know, despite the fact that Ratmilk's getting aggressive, I mean, GIobe is going in for Warlocks. Like, you're trying to stack up. You're definitely angling towards the late game here with this Zhong build. So maybe not fighting around mid. Sticking to the side lanes is something that Ratmilk is going to look towards. All the while, Anxoush takes a whole heck of a lot of damage over in the duo lane. It's a good thing junglers are on the right side of the map, where there could be another gank coming the way of this duo.
Uh-oh. Whew. Okay, got a little nervous there, Anxoush. You'd have to imagine last time around it was a stun Janus ult.
Yep.
That led to Anxoush being first blooded. And look, you see that portal come flying by, and things start to, they start to worry you. Luckily this time it's not the first blood, not this early on. Create some space for the Storm to have a little more fight back. We've been seeing a lot of Assassin versus Wukong in this lane.
Yep.
At least this time the roles have been reversed. Assassin for Bruno. Tegveer running the Wukong. And Charlie, I'm going to be honest with you. You know, at least so far duo lane seems like the right answer. But it feels like this is another one of those games because of like semi-global presence from the junglers, global presence from some of the others, you literally could have first blood and or a fight breakout anywhere on the map. And it's sometimes at the drop of a hat, depending on how the teams are feeling.
Yeah, I was definitely leaning more towards that first blue buff spawn. I thought that's where we'd see some sparks fly, considering both of these solo laners have opted to go for teleport instead of something like beads. But everyone was able to escape just fine. Considering it's game number 3, a lot on the line here, you don't want to overextend early on. We know how much snowball can play into a account when you just get a couple levels behind in your lane. Doesn't mean it's over, but it's certainly more difficult to try and find that level of farm. But yeah, it's going to be either Ratmilk or Picoways. They don't have to get the last hit, but they are going to be the ones who are trying to force something. They've been doing it consistently. Pico on the left side of the map, trying to find out Shippigami. Even if he goes on that mounted archery to try and ride away, he can still be chased down just by the way of Susano's kit. You get that jet stream on someone, you teleport to them in an instant. Doesn't even matter if you're able to ride that horse away. So gotta watch out for your positioning. Force the ultimate. Shippigami's got to go back to base.
Keeping things simple, 5 minutes in, pressure's on. Now, Charlie, this is typically where we see, no matter, you know, we could talk about Ratatoskr, we could talk about the assassins, the double assassin choice for the Wardens. Independent of draft, almost permanently. This has always been time when things slow down, but there's going to be an island pull. Shippigami just can't escape, nothing to say about it. Killed off in first blood over to Tubahh in the blink of an eye. A great gank over towards the left side of the map. And just as I thought things were going to slow down, the Wardens decide no. They're in it to win it, and that's a great way to start.
Yep. Does seem the Kaolin Wardens built more for early game as is, and because of that, they were able to find some great aggression. Even after the pull from Anxoush, I thought Tubahh might have been in some trouble. There was a late beads, ends up getting yoinked in. Didn't seem to matter. All the while, the aggression was towards Shippigami, who, remember, his ultimate was pulled earlier on. The Hachiman didn't have that level of safety. They were able to collapse on the shield buff just to try and find that first blood, and it goes their way. This time, once again, giving Tubahh a level lead. And it's the slow build-up. Last game, this Xbalanque had a 3-level deficit. This time only 1, but if those ganks keep coming, if Shippigami's not careful, could build into even more. So I like this call from Hámmy just to stick around on the left side of the map. You want to make sure Shippigami can't step up for this farm, and because he can't, he's only going to get further behind.
Playing pressure. You gotta be careful around an Atlas. All it takes sometimes is one little pickup, and your life could disappear. Ratmilk, anxious, this side of the map. They deny the farm. They're gonna go ahead and start picking up a little more. But again, beautifully played by the Wardens to deny as much as they can towards Shippigami. Shield buff looks like it is going to be, well, contested and fought over here. Secure goes the way of Hámmy. And now Anxoush knocked up alongside Shippigami. What a great ult coming from Pico. And now the chase is on. Tubahh kills off the support like it's nothing, but Globe is rotated in. The Zhong Quail can change everything, but locked away, picked up. Now maybe taken down. Good Aegis. Avoid some damage. Knock up from Ratmilk onto Nnog, but the portal gets some distance created. Stun, good, but the damage is just better. Janus just does it better. Knocks him down and kills him out. 3-1 for the Wardens, and a beautiful play by the Janus.
Just not enough damage, and now Nnog wants to try and find a kill on the Globe. Pico does have the damage, but a beautiful stun. Not enough. Picoways shuts down Globe, and the Kaolin Wardens are just built different. I was wondering why Ratmilk was chasing so hard. The stun did some good damage. But a 4-level deficit, Gore, that is going to really add up, especially when you see the low amount of HP that this Janus lives on.
Man, I'm going to be lost in that moment. Imagine that from Janus. I mean, your perspective, you're getting low, but then you smack him, you see his ability, and you just
like, oh, one auto attack? Like, oh, you used everything to get close to me, and I'm 4 levels ahead, and the stun didn't kill? Yeah, I'll punch you in the face once for an easy return kill. Then you get the assist as well because Picoways was able to stall Globes back. Looking good. And oh man, I guess that Globe, once again, build-wise is building for late game, you can tell. Warlocks into Breastplate. there wasn't that much damage coming from the Zhong as is. This is a lot of hope that you can make it to full build, right? If you're building this way, you're foregoing your early game power spike. You're saying, we are going to survive. We are going to make it to 30 minutes. You got to hope that's true.
You got to do what you can. That shot from Nog a little wide. Globe knocked up the Globals, doing what damage they can. Lights turned off. Good luck, Zhong. Nothing to do about it. Can't escape. Nog puts a portal up in case he needs to get out of there. Island from Anxoush, way off the mark. Ratmilk gets to walk away because of it, though. And Xibalba Storm prevent things from going even further in favor of the Wardens. 5-1. It's only about 1,200 gold, but the Wardens with an impressive last few minutes.
They have been able to find about as much aggression as you could want, right? I mean, Globe's Aegis is down, so he's just a sitting duck once that ultimate comes through. You can unleash all the ghosts you want. The Unstable Vortex as well as the Typhoon is going to be cleaning up. And I think that this level 13 Janus is becoming even more of an issue. I said that Nog couldn't go Aegis, but once you realize that Globe is building essentially tanky, yeah, might as well get a blink. You can just get out of the way. You can blink before the ghosts reach you. You can stay through those portals. And unless late game you're getting rotated on by Ratmilk and Tegveer, this Janus should be untouched for a good portion of this game. It's just so difficult for this comp to try and chase down a Janus, especially when the jungler is behind. And in this case, Ratmilk getting that kill earlier on would have been massive. But instead of dropping the kill and giving it over to Nog, this gets so much worse.
A lot of trouble for the Storm at this point, man. The Wardens on a little bit of a tear. You have to be careful. Over here, Nog looking for some damage. Not able to find quite as big of a burst as we're used to seeing from the Janus. Still a lot of damage onto Ratmilk, who's up on the tree. Forced to fall back. The disengage is there. The Storm unable to be the aggressors, it feels like so far. The last couple of devastating fights. 2-0 and 2, level up in the jungle. Trelly, last time it was a story of 3 levels for one of the Warden's carries, and that's going to continue. It's just not Tubahh this time. Nog 14 to what is now Globe turning 12. A stolen blue buff on right is a small consolation prize considering everything else that's been going on. Hámmy has to dash away, but the pressure's still there. Pico's hanging around. Players from the Wardens all across the map looking for any opportunity they can, and with the beacon coming in soon, you have to imagine we're going to anticipate a fight, or maybe a fury. Started up pretty early by the Wardens, and just shy of 12 minutes, they're going to pick that one up, no problem.
Pick up the Fury, retreat for free. Not the Xibalba Storm going to try and force you into a fight, so that does go relatively untouched, but the beacon spawns in here in a couple seconds. The question is, after the Wardens get their Fury, do they still feel like they should step up for this beacon considering how much they just used on the Fury? Hámmy and Nog say, yes, of course we can step up. Why not? It's not going to be easy to try and get this confirmation, especially with Ratmilk and Globe nearby, but a rotation in from Bruno might be just what the doctor ordered. Here comes the teleport from Tegveer. Both solo laners show up.
You have to remember, it's a numbers game right here on the capture point. 3. Cap it pretty quickly. You need someone to stand on it to slow it down and create some space for your team. Island comes up from Anxoush. Blocks off a path, but a great dunk from Bruno. Finds the cut-off path and gets the kill. Hammy's getting low. Has to play carefully here. No dash to work with. Up into the sky goes Tegveer. Dumps in for the kill. Is able to find it. Meanwhile, Storm pick up the beacon, and the fight continues on. Pico low, Pico gone, and this is the turnaround the Storm have needed to keep themselves in this game. 6-3 still in favor of the Wardens, but a couple of crucial kills keep the Storm alive.
Yeah, trying to fight with Nog with no mana. He backs up. He has to be fearful of the Zhong ultimate. Just didn't seem like a great call. You can step forward, you can contest it lightly, but the full-on contest seems a bit sketchy. Do you blink in, go for the kill? Doesn't even need to. Nog cleans it up and is in very little danger here. The poke should be just fine. There goes the portal, and I don't think anyone's rotating forward. Ratmilk is having a rough time trying to deal with Nog on this Janus.
And I'm going to be real with you. I don't know what you do about that. I mean, there's not much. You don't have an Aegis. There's nothing you can do other than hope that you have moved enough out of the way. Nog still low health, still fighting, still getting damage. Forces Globe to fall back. Portal, good on to Anxoush. With the pull back immediately into another unstable vortex, the damage is there. The setup for Pico to get at least one, maybe knock down a second domino in Globe. But the single kill is going to be enough, this time onto the support. And what felt like a small comeback for the Storm, the Wardens immediately meet with 2 more kills, grab a little bit of gold back in their favor. You can see that massive dip just shy of the 14-minute mark, but immediately grab back up.
What?
Pico goes in, and Pico lives.
He's still
because
taking.
Tubahh
No.
is taking it. They're so low, but there's no one over here. What a play from the Wardens. At least the Storm are able to get a kill on a Hámmy, but who cares when you have teamwork like that?
I mean, first and foremost, Tubah's cold as ice. I'm acing that shot every day of the week. He knew exactly how much damage it was going to do, and he knew he was just fine. It's easier when you have the numbers in front of you. But not dropping it, Pico said, I'm going in, I'm confirming this kill, and you better make sure this tower doesn't touch me. And Tubahh said, I got you, bro. He tanked it up the whole time to confirm that kill. That's teamwork, and
it makes the dream work.
It certainly does. And to your first point about how it seemed like the Storm were coming back, I attribute that just to the fact that the Janus was not in the fight. If Janus was at that beacon fight with full mana, I don't think the Storm really had a shot.
Yeah.
Because Nog shows up immediately after and says, hey, just reminding you guys, I'm still 3-0-4. I'm still level 16. You cannot step up if I'm hitting my abilities consistently. That was just a misplay by the Wardens to think that they were as strong as they were without that massive lead that their mid laner has built up for himself. Now that they know, hey, when Janus is here, we are strong, seems like fight's going to keep going the way they have been.
3 levels up over the Zhong in mid, 4 levels up over the jungler. You don't even want to start counting. 8 levels up if you factor in the supports. Farm machine. And right now it is Janus. 3-0-4, 4-1-2 for Picoways. So some good slash lines showing up on the Wardens, showcasing their success so far. The straw that breaks the camel's back at this point, Trelly, has been that Fire Giant, right? Furies have gone a couple of ways. We've still seen some decent fights afterward. The Oni Fury, though, could be a very devastating blow. And I see a group up on left looking pretty strong. Portal and beads used by Nog. Has to play carefully here. Pull from Hámmy, not quite going to connect onto Anxious damage from Tubahh. Going to do a little bit. Beads get used to dodge out the island pull and the knock-up. And that helps find the damage necessary to get a kill for the carry. Nog in a little bit of trouble, uses the portal to get away. Ratmilk not going to connect on the dunk because of that portal. And now the damage has been done to the jungler, but the damage is still being done right now to the Wardens. They zone out and deal with Nog, and they even kill him off. That's going to be a massive bounty in terms of experience, gold, and what you can get from it on the map. 40 seconds without that Janus. And that has been the powerhouse for the Wardens. Storm step up to the Oni Fury. Bruno is here. Double tap, good. Goes in for the kill. Needs a couple more autos. The healing from Zhong too much to fight through. And now might just be sacrificed.
Bruno stole it
Watching
and
that.
is able to freaking... Oh, he doesn't kill Globe.
Does not get the kill.
So Bruno teleports in, is able to grab the Fury with the Berserker Barrage. It's only 100 damage. But even before that, I mean, I think Nog, he used his only portal, his only escape. He had one option. He said, Tubahh or Hámmy, one of you take this portal, get out. And I think immediately Shippigami said, there's a 3-0 bounty on that Janus. I'm ulting. Like, I don't care how deep I have to go with this mounted archery. I am going to the back line to confirm this bounty, and he gets it. Sometimes you got to play a little bit selfish. Save that portal for yourself. You're worth the most gold on your team. Portaling out your 0-2 Atlas just did not seem worth it. But Bruno picks up the slack. He says, don't worry, we lost our greatest steal attempt on this Gold Fury. I'll get it done with just the Berserker's Barrage. Of course, was not able to confirm the kill on the Globe, even with the pre-beads. The little bit of healing that Zhong gets from confirming that card was enough to make sure he lives through. But I'm thinking he'd prefer the Fury rather than his life there.
Yeah, I mean, that's an easy win, right? If that Fury goes down, we're talking Storm probably even and in a position where things are looking way, way better than they have for the first few minutes. Instead, Wardens still have the lead, 10-7, 2,000 gold. Nothing too crazy compared to what it could have been. That kill onto Nog is almost devastating. And it does even some things up, maybe not as much as they would like, though. Beacon spawns in. Storm standing on it. They captured the first one. And so far, control about half of the second one. It doesn't seem like the fight is going to come fast enough from the Wardens. So Stygian Beacon Part 2 goes to the Storm a second time. Shippigami getting bullied. Teleports there from Pico. Knock up. Going to be good. The damage is set up, and there was no way to get out of there. But the same thing can be said for Pico. 1 for 1. The portals used to make sure that Nog and the team can stay safe on the Wardens. But a good retaliation from the Storm to make sure that it's not just a free kill going over to the Wardens jungler.
Yep, that's what I was talking about earlier. If you're able to get that slipstream onto the Hachiman before he ults away, you can chase him down. Perfectly waits out the Aegis of that Typhoon needed to hit to confirm that kill, and it's perfect. But Ratmilk does have the rotation in, gets the return kill onto Picoways, which is going to be a great look. I was talking about late game, right? You look at Globe's build, he's going Warlock's Breastplate, E-Staff. Not the greatest damage items, but if you get Soul Reaver, if you get one more damage item and upgrade your starter, this Zhong will start to be a threat. I said about 30 minutes. I stand by that. If it does go 30 minutes, this Zhong is going to start being a lot scarier. You lose a bit of that one-shot potential as a Janus because you don't have that Soul Reaver online yet. The way that he's built, went Staff of Mirrodin, went Obsidian Shard. I mean, Janus already has that built-in penetration. This is a lot of percent pen that you're focusing on as opposed to some HP steal, which might be a little bit more valuable. Either way, unfortunate for Anxoush. Landfall off the mark. Turns out Janus is still pretty quick, despite talking about needing a little bit more HP steal. That threshold's going to get you out of trouble every time, and Anxoush whiffs the ultimate.
Now remember, pressure on for these two teams. Winner moves forward in the Gauntlet. Loser goes home. Shippigami taken out by Picoways one more time. There's going to be the hook. Up in the sky comes Ratmilk. Knockup's going to be good. Bede's a little bit too late there. Teleport onto Anxoush. Matches out. Now it's a 3v2 on the side as Ratmilk doesn't re-engage quite yet. Couple of shots thrown both directions. No big kills outside of Shippigami going to happen. Gold Fury spawned in. Started up by the Wardens. It should be a pretty easy pickup, and we're trying to talk about, at this point, the money in favor of the Wardens. That should push them up pretty heavily into the 4,000 mark. 2,700 experience as well. So, Jelly, you know they're feeling pretty good about the pressure they've been able to apply. Lose a Pyromancer off the backs. Something tells me this next Fire Giant, the first Fire Giant of this game might be a pretty heavily determining factor. Bruno has to play careful as well. Had to use the beads. Storm get the Pyromancer, not letting Bruno have a repeat of the Fury earlier. This Fire Giant feels like it's got a lot of weight on its shoulders. Whoever gets it can change a lot in the game.
They certainly could, and I think, you know, if you are looking at Tegveer and look like trying to force out that ultimate is the call, they don't have a lot to do so. Picoways is behind, but still, should just be a somersault cloud. Holding on to it for dear life, though, barely gets up into the sky. I mean, he was in little to no danger, but he held that a lot longer than I would have. Tegveer, somersault cloud down, is going to have to give up his tier 1 tower at the very least. But man, thin margins there. There was no room for error. He really held that one as long as possible to make sure. He just did not want to use that ultimate. Scary stuff, but he's rewarded for it. Doesn't end up dying. At the very least, he does lose that tier 1 tower. But as you said, this next Fire Giant's going to be a big deal. You can tell the Wardens don't just want to go in for it. They would like to sit around and find a pick beforehand if possible. But it does not seem like the Storm are going to put themselves in a negative position, right? They always have Ratmilk to go up to the sky and face check that Fire Giant to make sure it's not going down. And if it isn't, what's the point of putting yourself out of position? Just stick around back, look for some farm. But it looks like there's a bit of a grouping from the Storm. Are they trying to find Bruno over in right lane? Remember, the Thor doesn't have beads for at least another 40 seconds, and they are trying to find him, but he's got ultimate. He's just not using it.
Doesn't feel in danger. Avoids the knockup, avoids everything. Might lose the tier 1. We're entering an interesting portion of the game. Shipigami forced to use the ult to try and stay away from Pico. Pico now in trouble. Pico deleted thanks to GIobe, who has the tankiness online. Up to the sky goes Bruno. But can you go in with your team positioned the way they are? No, you cannot. So you have to fall back. Wardens, though, still on the money. Speaking of in the money, there was another 10,000 gem winner for anyone out there who needs to get in game and start playing. Put on some effort, like the Wardens and the Storm are. Fire Giant started up by the Storm, getting it down to half health. Starting to get aggressive as well, running into the fight. Trying to find a pick, unable to get the lockdown necessary. Anxoush took a lot of poke in the process. Now double tap, wall, good, teleport in. Maybe a little bit better. Fire Giant again had been dropped. Storm still looking for their opening. Nog is low. Almost has ultimate. That could be devastating. Look at the low health bars of the Storm. There's going to be the shot immediately onto Ratmilk. Forces the jungler to feel awkward, but you still lose Hámmy in the process. Team not able to find the fight that they want. It looks like both of them are going to back up, leave the Fire Giant uncontested.
It will. I like the call. The Storm want to fight whenever possible. You get the pick on the Picoways. You feel aggressive. You step forward, but the chase down potential is not the best, and I think that's a big issue, right? If you've got Ratmilk, if you can let him go up to the sky, sure, you can close gap. But Ratmilk was just not able to find any sort of aggression there, and because of that, you lose Hámmy, and you back up. The Wardens are still going to be ahead in gold, but this is when the build starts to get online. Finally, GIobe finished that Soul Reaver. He gets alternate timeline as well. This Zhong is officially threatening. If you get near him, of course, Nog has been threatening, but can also die very quickly. That's the difference, right? This Janus needs to watch positioning and make sure you're not taking a lot of damage with no Aegis. And the Fire Giant has been started up here. Bit of a bait, though, you can tell. They want this fight if possible. They want to see who the Wardens will step up. Fire Giant's only at 50%, but it's burning slow.
Slow, but steady. Fire Giant, 25% HP, 20% HP. Titans Unleashed as well, going down left. Dunk in from Bruno. Fire Giant dropped. Anxoush is the main target, it seems like. Damage is there. Bruno knocks them back, unable to find the full kill. Ratmilk did dunk down in the middle of the fight. Didn't quite find anybody. Now they engage back from the Storm. Tubahh taking too much damage. GIobe walks forward, finds it. An alternate timeline keeps him alive and in it. Nog getting chased around, chased down, and killed out. Ratmilk comes in. Call him Miley Cyrus. It's a wrecking ball for the fight of the Wardens. Pico has to run away.
He's got Blink.
And that blink is going to be just enough to get him out of there. Fire Giant should be the next target. Titans meeting up in left. Great plays from the Storms. And they're going to control this game 27 minutes in.
They are, but going for Fire Giant still risky. Picoways, despite having no relics, can do some disastrous damage towards Shipigami. Once GIobe gets here, it gets a bit easier, but he's slippery. It's hard to keep track of where Susano's going to be, and you got to know Typhoon's coming up shortly. Fire Giant is still the call, but you don't have Ratmilk to zone, and you don't have any idea where the Susano could be.
Now you got to be worried. Fire Giant getting low.
He's got ult.
Picoways is here, has ult. Has a teleport, has movement, goes for the ult over the wall. Wardens get it just as easy as it could be. And it does not matter. 3 of them pick it up. The Storm, now I'd be worried. Going for the Pyromancer. Steps forward from Hámmy and Pico. They're looking for a little bit more. They're going to take that one away as well. Your objectives are not safe here.
GIobe
goes in with the ult stunned out. Damage is good. Ratmilk trying to chase them. They need something, a consolation prize at best. But Trelly, they just can't find it. And just as quickly as they took control, they lose it.
I mean, that's the issue of trying to pull without your jungler. Usually in a situation like that, there's someone looking out for zone. There's someone who's trying to find Picoways. Says, hey, I think there's a Susano behind us. But Ratmilk was dead. They have to go in with the 4v2. And it's the freest steal you could ask for. Typhoon just does too much damage there, knocks up to messes up the enemy clear. And once Picoways grabs that, they say, hey, turn off the lights, send in the squad with through space and time, let's look for an engagement. They don't find it, but at the very least, they get out safely with their Fire Giant steal. And now the Wardens are able to be in a commanding position. Grouping up towards, I assume the left side of the map is the call. And they've got Fire Giant on just about everyone that matters, right? Tubahh is going to be able to get that structure damage. Picoways gets the buff as well. Of course, you would love it on your solo laner and your mid, but they've got enough to push, right? They've got enough to group up and start looking to take some of these towers down, some of these structures that the Storm have been hiding under. What a turning of the tides. And GIobe's alternate timeline came in pretty clutch last time. It's not going to be back for 200 seconds. I'm thinking next time, this Zhong's going to have to play a bit safer.
Gonna have to be careful where he's at. Relics are all up, though. I'm still floored. Fire Giant on 3 of the Wardens after a beautiful steal by Pico. Up 7,000. Let's go ahead and call it 7,500 gold. Knocking on the door of a tier 2 in left. Tier 2 in mid. Already half health. Nog, Pico. Waiting on the minion wave, but the pressure is going to be on here for the Storm. Trying to figure out where, when, how they can defend here. And Trelly, it doesn't seem like the answer is at a tier 2 line. Tier 2 in mid knocked down. Tier 2 in left knocked down. And the disengage from both teams creates a little bit of space. Not a lot of neutral objectives to go for, so maybe tier 2 on right. Maybe some gold spending in the future here for the Wardens.
I don't hate that call. They don't have Fire Giant on everyone, so playing safe, definitely a good idea. But they haven't retreated here. Nog trying to grab the tier 2 over on right, and the full grouping on the left side of the map is still here. I mean, GIobe steps up, trying to engage, trying to start a fight, but Ratmilk hasn't gone to the skies. All the while, Janus is going to get some good damage onto the Phoenix. The Wardens, they still have a minute to play with.
A lot of wiggle room, and they're using it. Nog got a kill with the auto attack earlier, and is going to go for a little bit more. Tries for the Phoenix. Has to use the portal. The ult as well for the disengage. Gives him a little shimmy shake. Gets out from right, but the Phoenix does not go down. Have to keep your eyes on the Janus if you are the Storm. But with no ult, it becomes a lot easier to potentially lock down the mid laner for the Wardens. Hámmy looks for the stun, the portal, it's all good in terms of damage. Up in the air goes Bruno. Comes dunking down right onto Shiπigami. The knock-up on the Anxoush is good, and the damage, the zone, is too strong. Now GIobe steps forward.
Gone!
Just deleted, and it seems to be the same way for the rest of the Storm. 3 gone. Tegveer barely into the somersault cloud. Minions walking in. Fire Giant still hanging around for a little bit longer. And that's going to allow them to get a kill, get the full-on deicide, take the left side Phoenix, march into the Titan room, and take this set.
Wow, I mean, all the while, beautiful plays throughout, but Tubahh was just a laser beam there towards the end of that engagement. Pops the ultimate off the knockup from Picoways. This Susano, of course, was an issue, but he gets free setup. He just gets, it was like target practice, just throwing ducks in the sky. He was able to snipe down just about everyone. And of course, the Susano. It was excellent synergy. They spent so much time on the left side of the map. I think Picoways realized, he said, hey, let's play this X-Ball. I'm going to play on this side of the map. Nog will be fine. He's Janus. He's going to be able to go through walls. He's safe. I'm going to get this Xbalanque ahead, maybe get some kills for myself while I'm at it, and ends up 9-3. I'd say a pretty good stat line and a pretty good performance from the
pretty
Susano.
Good.
It's
it's like normal.
Yeah.
He was doing better in your ranked games, right? Dropping the 10 bombs.
He was.
Didn't even get the double digits here. I mean, can you even say? Look, it was amazing for him. Bruno, I think as well has to be mentioned. Hámmy, the setup, the sun, the CCs that just allowed players like Nog to get that much damage out there. Impressive plays from the Wardens. Not without fault. There were definitely some bumps in the road, Trelly, and you have to give credit over to the Storm where credit is due. They make it hard. The Storm, unfortunately, fall and are eliminated from the Gauntlet here. The Wardens, it depends on where you want to look. Every single one of these players the last 2 games have had an incredible performance. And now they get to look a little bit ahead. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, right? What they should be looking at is the success from this, what they found out they can do, what they found out they shouldn't do. And from what I learned, the answer is get Thor on your team.
Yep.
And let Pico do whatever Pico wants. And at this point, let Nog play Janus. That seems to be a pretty good selling point for me.
24 HP, easy. Love that shutdown. But I tend to agree. Unfortunately for them, you don't have that time to just sit back and reflect about how well you played because the Gauntlet is here and you have to climb your way up. However, we can sit here and revel on how well they played in the early game, which I think did have a great reason that they were able to translate into the late game because there was some reasons, there was some stopping from the Xibalba Storm, right? They found some good aggression, if not from the clutch steal from Picoways. maybe that Fire Giant play goes a bit differently. Maybe that Siege goes a bit differently. And maybe the Wardens don't get in this position. But because they were able to make the clutch steal, here was the knockup. Beautiful, just target practice, essentially one-shotting everyone. I mean, they just had such a lead once they were able to steal away that Fire Giant that it was, I'm not going to say effortless, but it was a lot easier to just walk forward, deny the Phoenix, get the full-on deicide, and send this one home.
And it felt like there was a moment, and it all actually depended not on the Wardens for their victory, but on Tegveer, because made it barely into the Somersault Cloud.
Yep.
And it was, which direction do you go and do you live? If the answer to either, like, if the answer to the second one is yes, you live, maybe you don't see the win right there.
Yep.
Unfortunately, comes crashing down right into the waiting arms of Tubahh, who could not have been happier to have a kill gifted over towards the Xibalance. And everybody, I think, looks good, right? 0-2 and 6, 0-3 and 9. The front lines are out there getting the assists. 9-3-5, 4-3-7, 5-3-5. A lot of the players just looking good. And again, the Storm giving them a lot of trouble. Those deaths are there for a reason. They make a lot of fights hard. But unfortunately, those fights always came at the cost of something big. It was an objective the first time around in the Fury. It was an objective the second time around in the Fire Giant. And then an objective the third time around in the Pyromancer. It just feels like, unfortunately for them, despite winning around them, they weren't able to seal the deal. And now, as mentioned before, Storm are out for the weekend. The Wardens, however, get to continue on. It's Gauntlet style. Winner will then play the next highest seed, so on and so forth. So Wardens, Scorpions, going to take each other on next. Winner of that will go against the Valkyries. Winner of that, you'll never guess it, will take on the Weavers. Winner of that will take on the Sages. Winner of that goes to Roll Stars in just a few weeks. So it's playing for the long term, but also playing for the short term. A little bit of a warm-up there. 3-game set here for the Wardens. And now it's going to be the question of, can they get past the Scorpions and Trelly? I see Relentless One, Bayernary, Gino, GIobe. A lot of names on the Scorpions that are familiar, have been around the scene for a while, so it's not going to be an easy fight.
It's not going to be easy, but I have learned to never underestimate the Gauntlet teams. When you've got momentum on your side, when you're able to string together a win, especially a hard-fought 3-game set, you're feeling a little warm, you're able to step into the next set a little bit hotter than the other team, you come out swinging, maybe you upset them. Again, we just saw the EU Gauntlet bottom seed team goes almost the whole way. I'm not counting anyone out just yet.
And hey, 89% of people believed in the Wardens in that last game. Maybe you still believe in them as we go towards the next set. It's going to be the Wardens taking on the Scorpions. All of that, of course, though, right after this quick break.